Good evening and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Latin American Invitational Qualifiers. I'm Milos the Medic, and with me, of course, the ever so fantastic
Thank you, Milos. I
Michael
appreciate that.
Kickstar
That's very kind of you. You're fantastic as well. We are here now with the semifinals of these playoffs for qualifiers for the Invitational, and it's going to be some exciting matches we have to show you today. Just to start things off, let's take a look at the schedule, or we will in just a moment. We'll take a look at the schedule for the whole week of these qualifiers for all of the different regions, and we'll see what's transpired and what is going to transpire in the future.
Yeah,
These matches coming up soon, so exciting.
Yeah, we've gone through NA. We've got extremely exciting games, especially the one that we had last night between Era and Reckless. And today we start off with the semifinals of Latin America. Tomorrow we have the finals. And then we have had a change for EU. Let me remind you, Elisandre, of course, has already tweeted it out. We had previously prepared for EU to have 2 semifinals with a final. However, EU has already been granted a spot at the Invitational.
Right.
So the final is basically not even a seeding game.
I mean, it would be effectively pointless.
Yes.
At that point.
So it has been split up with day 1 only having one of the games with a best of 5, of course, and then day 2 with the second match in the semifinal technically being finals themselves.
So let's take a look at the week schedule now. Again, what has transpired and what will transpire is laid out before you. North America, as you said, Milos, has already gone past, as we just saw it finish yesterday. Era did win out against Team Reckless in those finals, winning their spot at the Invitational, an exciting feat for them. They were seemingly extremely on point, and I expect that to hopefully continue on forward for them. Now, today, Tuesday, we are going to have a LANCHONETE versus MOPA, and then we will have BRK versus MOPA. And of course, the finals will continue on Wednesday for Latin America. Europe is going to be our final 2 play day, or our final 2 play days for us personally, and then we will have APAC. Will be casted by the APAC casters, I believe, on this channel as well on Saturday and Sunday.
4 teams coming in from the region to the ESL studio in Sydney, and then we're going to have teams representing APAC region finally in the Invitational.
Which is, I think, honestly, it's the sort of thing, they need to be given that opportunity, and they need that time to really show that they can play at the level of everybody else. And I'm looking forward to the competition that they're going to be bringing forward, specifically APAC, because we've seen them now given those spots now, or those attempts at some LAN events, and we need to see that payback in experience. But let's take a look at the bracket for the Latin American region. The region we're going to be casting today. As you can see here on the round of 16, we had Rogerio go up against Dottie Gaming, and they managed to get the 2-1, putting themselves into the quarterfinals before losing to LANCHONETE. And Complex Gaming, of course, losing in the first round to LANCHONETE 2-0. And again, this is a team, LANCHONETE specifically, are a team that seemed very dominant so far from the Latin American region.
Yeah, and of course, in the second part of the bracket right below is MOPA Esports, who are facing off versus LANCHONETE in the upcoming match. They were able to beat Team Synergy 2-0, move on to the quarterfinal. Unforgiven beating Font. Unfortunately, Font had to forfeit this game. More details are available through the ESL Rainbow Six Twitter. Of course, MOPA playing against Unforgiven, beating them 2-1, and we arrive here with LANCHONETE versus MOPA.
Then on the other side of things, BRK Esports 2-0 over Chaos. Not catching many people by surprise. It is BRK. And they're going to get another 2-0 in that quarterfinal against Nax Esports, putting themselves into the semifinals. Now, Nax Esports did manage to get into the quarters by 2-1 over Faith. And then you had ATS Esports 2-0 over BB Host. Eka Clan get 0-2'd by MOPA Team. Then MOPA Team 2-0ing AT Esports to get into, again, the semifinals. If we could zoom in there, these are the matches we're going to be having played today. These 2 semis. LANCHONETE versus MOPA Esports will be our first match, and BRK Sports versus MOPA will be our second. 2 definitely nail biters here. I mean, there are a lot of these are the sort of match that are too close to call.
Yeah, and you need to prove yourself in the semis, because here it's tough. Imagine how it's going to be like in the grand final tomorrow,
right?
Where they have to play against, well, LANCHONETE or MOPA will have to play against either BRK or MOPA, and it gets exponentially more difficult in that stage to call, especially for us. Remember, that spot for the Invitational is highly contested, and everybody wants in.
Absolutely, and there's only one spot for the Latin American region. So let's take a look at the schedule for today, and it's going to be Lanchonete versus MIPI again to start us off, and then BRK Esports versus MOPA to finish us off today, and then tomorrow the finalists of the first match against the finalists of the second match.
Yeah, I'm very excited for today, just at the start, but tomorrow, as we said before, it's going to be extremely difficult to call. But this is Latin America.
Right.
This is a region that, we always talk about NA shuffles, French shuffles, etc. Brazil has pretty much both combined and then maybe doubled.
Yeah, I mean, well, they have in the past, right? The dust has seemed to settle a little bit after the last season finished, and people are finding themselves comfortable on the teams that they are on now. So it looks like we won't have as many roster changes, hopefully. Moving forward. But that does lead a lot for, I mean, especially for the viewer who isn't as familiar with the teams and maybe, cannot keep track of everyone all the time. It can be somewhat difficult at times to see, okay, well, where these guys come from? And it's confusing even sometimes for me, who's, when I'm watching it going on, it can be a case of like, yeah, there's definitely some next level confusion going on there. But at the same time, despite all of that, Latin America still manages to churn out every single season, every single form of competition, teams that are competing and going all the way. Narrowly missing, of course, that international title or winning any of the Pro League seasons, but very narrowly.
Yeah, I mean, year two, they arrived at the first season here in Katowice. They made it all the way to the final. Everybody was surprised, and I would say again, except for myself, that is very much correct.
You definitely
I need to preserve my own position.
I saw the flag before he put it on his shoulders.
Yeah, there you go. At Gamescom, they were knocked out in the semifinal, but then they came back in Brazil. They had changed their setups a bit in terms of the team layout itself. They had changed a lot of the tactics, so they were a lot more reactive. However, you could see some of the flaws in terms of they seemed a bit too rigid at times, just for a split second, and that allowed ENCE to win out the final versus BD back then.
I think overall, if we're talking about just in general a region, and we're pointing finger at Latin America, they definitely learn. I mean, it's not like they come off these losses and there's no experience gained. Because like you said, they've become much more strategic in recent competition for Rainbow Six than they have ever in the past. I mean, every single season you see them start to slow down, start to take things more just more calculatedly. They start to actually think about what they're doing instead of trying to take fights after fights, because that's not a bad thing. That identity of the Latin American region has worked for them a lot.
They've perfected that 1v1
They really
fight.
have. Absolutely.
If we would remember Nesk, just to pull off on a tangent a bit, with Nesk and even other players that would play maybe the Ashe, especially on the attack, you would always have one drone walking in front of him, so there's always information, and he's moving on directly behind it, trying to get extra kills on top of it. That is the level of teamwork and cohesion that sets them apart from everybody else.
Well, I mean, we see that sometimes from other regions, but it seems almost regular in the Latin American region as a whole. And it seems like it's the sort of thing that will maybe happen every once in a while for a really good team out of every other region. That coordination is always expected here. And I think that it's going to make these matches we have coming up be very exciting. I mean, MIPI versus Lanchonete, that's definitely going to be an interesting one. We have some really standout names on both these rosters. I think we'll be bringing up the MIPI roster hopefully soon. We can take a look at what they have to show us. And here it is, Jason's 13, Io, Mega, Midi, and Migs. So some familiar names, some new, but overall, definitely a solid roster here.
For me, the standout is Migs compared to the rest of the player.
Most experienced by far.
Yes, that is very much true. So we're going to be looking at this in a way where there's one player that has had a lot of experience with others that have tried to crack up to that top level of players in the region especially. So how is the setup going to be? Is it all going to be played around him? Will it be just him doing all of the work? Will it be supporting that player?
It couldn't be.
Obviously.
I mean, I'm expecting it clearly by what we're seeing here. He's definitely one of their top fraggers, but I'm expecting might be by the baseline across the board, statistics here, I'm guessing it's going to be a nice even split for this team. Obviously, you cited the cohesion and coordination of Latin American teams in general, and I think it will definitely see itself applied here. For those of you who aren't familiar with these new statistics, by the way, we have removed headshot percentage for the time being and replaced them with survivability percentage of rounds. And you can see there that is represented by SRV.
And I think that's a very good change, because sometimes you look at KD and just the amount of kills that have been done by a specific player, you don't really understand their total effect on the round itself or on the match itself. That end of round survival rate really allows us to clearly put them, is this guy really playing a smoke, for example, until the last second, playing the utility correctly?
You're right. No, you're definitely right. Now, just an update for those of you watching, those statistics we had up on the board for Esports were incorrect. So do not cite any of them in the future because they are off base. So that's Esports, and they do have an opponent, and that is going to be Lanchonete, an exciting team also coming from the Latin American region, obviously, and here is their roster.
All right, so Revolts, Spawns, Tuna, FK1, and GCR. For me, Revolts and Spawns are players that have been in the Pro League system for a long time, especially for Latin America, and they are definitely standouts here.
Well, I mean, FK1 also has a good amount of experience. He's a slightly newer player, but he has been around the block. Tuna and GCR, actually not even GCR, just Tuna is the only one that stands out.
GCR has been in for
GCR,
quite a while
he's been around too. He's about the same amount of about as long as FK1. So Tuna is the only standout here for Lanchonete for me that maybe doesn't have as much experience, and he's definitely going to be having a lot to prove today. Apologies for the lack of stats, ladies and gentlemen, but at least we know who's playing.
Now, honestly, I think just basing things off of past performance and knowing what these players and what these teams as a whole can offer, I'm leaning more towards Lanchonete in this game.
I have to agree with you. I mean, there's clearly a gap in experience just upon the people we recognize. I mean, again, if you're going to look at Migs, that's the name. You know, he's the standout. And you look at Lanchonete, you got FK1, you got GCR, Revolts, I mean, Spawns. It looks like a really solid roster. Excuse me, I may have read one name wrong.
I think the important part here is very much going to be the maps, because we always know that Brazil tends to go for different maps, and here we see Bank going off first and Coastline from MyP.
That's a counter ban, obviously. The Latin American region having a lot of fun on Bank, especially in the past. So I'm guessing Lanchonete just does not want to deal with Esports.
Even Chalet.
Bank.
Okay. This is okay. So Clubhouse, Bank, and Chalet, especially Bank and Chalet, are maps that the region itself is very comfortable with. But seeing Border Consulate in Oregon, this is like, are we playing an NA game at this point, or like
it
even
does seem that way.
This point?
I mean, we talked about earlier how the meta from certain different regions are starting to bleed into the Latin American region, and I feel like this is a clear example of that in this ban phase, because that's North America right there. Those are three of the North American most played maps. I mean, it's even reflected in Europe as well.
Yes.
But Bank, definitely an iconic map in Latin America. Coastline as well, definitely seeing strong play in Latin America. And some of the other off maps, like Skyscraper, for example. So it's a little bit of a surprise here, but it might have just been the two teams counterbanning each other into a hole.
Exactly. You say, oh, we know that MyP are pretty good on Bank, so let's remove that. And then MyP will say, oh, they're pretty good on Chalet. Let's remove it for Lanchonete. And that's how it works. It's about being smart in the pick ban phase. And this is something that is extremely important online and even more important on LAN.
No, you're absolutely right. Now, Lanchonete is going to be picking first, and they're going to go to Oregon. That is, I mean, you can't surprise us with what you decide to pick out of Border Consulate in Oregon.
Honestly,
preference.
This is something where a previous ESL admin from the region, like a year and a half ago, would always tell me I got bored with Oregon because every single game they play is Oregon. Honestly, I'm not surprised to see it here, but there you go. Oregon, Consulate, and then Decider on Border. I'm pretty excited for this. I'm pretty excited, especially what they bring on Oregon, because of the way that Latin America likes to play with having roamers really focus on that top floor and delaying as long as possible the attacking side.
My main thing to take away from these maps is every single one of them leaves a lot to either team. I mean, the defense is not going to be strangled, not forced to defend anchor, not forced to roam. You know, Chalet's, yeah, you got to roam on Chalet and on Clubhouse. You have to play anchor inside the bomb site. None of that is happening here between these three maps. Not once will it. And I think the least dynamic map is Oregon of all maps, and it is definitely it leaves a lot of options for both teams. So that's the most exciting thing for me personally, but we are going to be getting into the match. First map, of course, will be Oregon, and we're going to have it start up in just a moment.
All right, let's head into the game. Of course, this is Lanchonete versus MOPA Esports and Border, first map in this best of 3. So let's head right on in.
Or rather, Oregon, I believe it is.
Oregon, exactly, yes. I got too excited. I'm ready for
It
Border.
is a very
I really
exciting
wanted
match.
to go all the way.
Totally justifiable, man.
All right.
Don't stress it. Now, as you can see here, it is... Well, actually, as you probably can't see unless you speak Portuguese, it is going to be a basement defense.
Yes.
We're going to go downstairs. And that is the slightly more, I'd say, anchored site, obviously. It's the one down in the basement. The I don't know if you could call it a stigma. The association of bottom floor holds on almost every map is we want to turtle. Now, that's not always the case. Oftentimes, teams will fake out a hold of the bottom floor and instead force out a roam. And that might be actually something that gets emphasized as you see Revolts playing Vigil. So yeah, there's definitely going to be a roam. Now, Vigil, I talked to a lot of North American pros, and they definitely feel like Vigil's a viable operator who will see play quite a lot of it. And I remember talking about the different regions and their preferences, and almost everyone I talked to was like, you know who I really think is going to play a bunch of Vigil? Latin America. Latin America is going to play Vigil. Lots and lots of Vigil. And I think they were right. Just right off the bat here, first round, already Vigil, whereas in North America and Europe, he's been kind of shunned.
Yeah, and it's always exciting seeing how different regions react to the new patch in a different way to the other.
Yeah.
Because NA has been trying this, EU a tiny bit. They're still kind of stuck in an old mindset where, and even I kind of agree with it, where Vigil is very situational, but this is what we want to see. Want to see teams trying to experiment with them. When we saw Chalet playing very well for NA in the past couple of days, this is the time as well to see him on Oregon this time around. So
he's already fallen back.
Yeah, he's not even going to be roaming, but this is kind of a different strategy. They might not be expecting him to stay on the site just because you have the drones that are coming around.
Possible.
All right, Spawns is prepping up the C4. He spots first drone and the second one. We'll be able to take them out. Both players in the back, and they realize that he's all on his own in the meeting hall here.
And
trying to bait him out.
He's still just managing to stall out a lot of time. The attack is not going to force out this push, but they will take out his teammate.
Oh,
That's
C4
be
thrown
C4.
in! Oh my god. Nicely done from Spawns with the Jackal.
Beautiful.
Will get taken down. Now, Jackal would have been a great way to deal with that Virtual early on, but not going to be the case. Even spraying all the way through, dropping only one, can't get the second. Mega will get one, but will get dropped by GCR. So one up top, pretty low on HP, and the Thermite will get one. Here we go. Revolts and Spawns will clean up the last couple kills. That was extremely fast.
Yeah, absolutely. And it all came down to the attack trying to Whoa.
Whoa. All right.
So, you know, you have to remember that after you get the kill on the if it's the last kill, it does stop you from shooting, but that was still a very impressive shot. But yes, what that round really came down to, for me, it seemed like the attack was trying to force out Meeting Hall just a little bit too much. If you're going to be going for a construction push, which it seemed like that was the plan there, then you don't necessarily have to control Meeting Hall. It's not essential. You just need to hold the flank. You need to hold tower. And they got a little bit ahead of themselves. They tried to force out a defense, and arguably, they should have won it. I mean, you have attic control, and you lose a fight to a bandit playing by tower doorway, but they still lost it.
The communication between the player in attic and the bandit below to throw the C4 at that perfect area, that was basically what gave them the advantage. Handed it back into the hands of Lanchonete.
And I'm definitely thinking that the one piece of barbed wire sacrifice really not feeling that bad in that situation. Now, we are seeing a blitz. This is very interesting. We are going to have Yuna gracing us with a blitz. I wonder how he's going to be played.
First Vigil, now blitz, and immediately just breaking the metagame.
Well, breaking the international metagame, maybe.
Yes.
A Latin American, maybe. more like defining it.
That is very much what Yuna's been known for, playing for so long, actually, on many, many professional teams, even back all the way in the day. So, what really interests me as well is how the Legion plays. I've been talking about this for way too long, but still adamant that Legion is somewhat underutilized for quite a few teams. They tend to use him as just, okay, now we know that there's one of the players that's rotating around, just basically to get information. But the teams that have really excelled and played him correctly are the ones that are always playing around his goo mines. There we go, Blitz going all the way in. Ella's gonna get dropped, and FK1 will get a headshot directly onto Midi. And Yuna's just eating those bullets. He goes all the way to the side of the hallway.
That's one way to defeat an Ella. And it's going to be another sprint onto the Legion, who's trying to hold on for dear life, but gets quick-scoped by Yuna. Not even needing to use his flash there, clearly making good use of Blitz. And now MOPA, who has already lost a round, finds themselves in a 2-on-5 with still 2 minutes almost left to go. This is not a very comfortable position, is it, Milos?
No, and indeed it is not. And on top, this can start really playing mind games with MOPA very early on in the game. With round 1 and now round 2, this gets exponentially more difficult for MOPA to understand what Lanchonete is going to do. Here we go. Throws that to C4, but he's going to get flashed before he clicks it. And Yuna, headshot yet again. And that's 3 players down. Can he go for the 4th? No. It's going to be Migs to take him out with barely any HP. He's just going to pull out the pulse here and just try to gauge the situation. But 4 players are trying to drop in, and these smokes have been thrown all the way down. He's trying to check for somebody coming down onto the site, but the glass is looking out. 1C4. He can delay it for just a bit, but the diffuser's already been set down all the way in the back, and GCR taps him immediately with the OTS. And that'll be the cleanup. Lanchonete just playing in a way that is extremely unpredictable.
I mean, unpredictable in that there's a Blitz charging right at your face. Run away!
Julio actually did that at the season finals in Brazil, in that grand final, remember, on Chalet, especially versus ENCE. But here, it's just like, so we don't care. We can play this.
They've played a Vigil now, Lanchonete. They played a Vigil now, and they've played a Blitz. And the conversation with those two operators is actually very similar. Now, I hear a lot of people talk about how, oh, Vigil's such a good fragging operator. You know, maybe he doesn't bring any utility, but we could still see him played in probably because of his fragging potential with those 2 excellent guns and the potential to outplay players if you use his ability correctly. And I wholeheartedly agree. I think he brings a lot of that. And Lanchonete harnessing that. And then it's the same thing with Blitz. You know, you'll hear oftentimes pro players talk about, especially on Twitter, they'll be like, "Oh, Blitz, Blitz, Blitz. You know, he's so overpowered. You just win fights. He's just an unfair operator." And you know, they're kind of right in a sense. But then he doesn't bring any utility, so a lot of teams will just not bring him. And now, you know, the community's left wondering why. Why don't we see this operator that you claim is so powerful, why don't we see him played as often as you would expect? And I think Lanchonete there just now really bringing those powers and emphasizing them. That's a really interesting way of interpreting it too, and it is definitely the Latin American interpretation of the meta, as we were alluding to earlier.
Yeah, what I like as well is the setup. Because they're now defending all the way on the top floor, first floor basically, it allows them to use the smoke and the mirror as well to open up tiny killer holes all the way up top. This gives them perfect line of sight into specific hot zones basically on the ground floor. And that allows them to support their roamers from the top floor. So they're not only relying on, you know, the one player that's set below, in this case, the Jaeger, you see FK1, but he's got a mirror wall facing directly into the hallway here, and Mega can't really seem to push him back.
Yeah, Mega's going to be challenging the angle into the hallway, and FK from above is going to hit that shot. That's what you would expect, given that it is an angle designed for the defenders, by the defenders, but a refrag from Midi takes out FK1 as he exposes his head just a little bit too much. And MOPA looking to control this kitchen. They have completely surrounded it. There are 2 defenders lingering, though.
Yeah, Midi just moving bit by bit here, looking at the kitchen. Probably here's the bandit all the way in the back here, and now they're going to be able to spot him with the drone, but they need to pinch this. They need to go directly onto them, not allowing the defenders any space to move. The mirror wall gives them just a bit of headway, but it's already been popped, and here we go. Habana will take down Yuna, so that is no more Mira on the top side. GCR revolts and spawns, last alive and revolts. Just trying to look through for maybe a lucky headshot here and there. just give them a bit more space.
The one thing to take away for me from this match so far, we're only 3 rounds in, but almost every round has seen at least 3 or 4 kills in the first couple minutes. Now, Spawn's going to miss an opportunity onto the back of Jackal as he pushes his way towards Kitchen. Before getting one onto Midi, revolts from that hole in the floor, going to take out another player onto Io. So it is going to be the defense rallying here in the last minute of the round, but still, Jason's and Mig with plenty of time. They only have to wait out a couple gas containers.
Mig's just waiting around, as you're saying, for the gas containers, but Jason looking in for the jump. Spawn's immediately looking onto White Stairs and will be able to take down Migs. Jason last alive here, just looking outside, just right below Yellow Stairs, spots his dead teammate there on the Jackal. I don't think he can do much versus an Ella, Bandit, and a Smoke, but he'll definitely try to delay as long as possible. They're trying to play mind games against him, but they know they hear exactly where he's at as he moves right below them. And the Bandit will try to go for the peek, does not spot him, and that'll be Habana to get the kill. Jason still moving up of White Stairs. Both players trying to set up the crossfire to take him out as he moves right onto A. Smoke has not moved up. Ella from behind will take him out, and GCR cleans this one up. Lanchonete for the 3rd round in a row.
Absolutely dominant victory there from Lanchonete. Honestly, though, it seemed in the early round, excuse me, I retract that statement. Not a dominant victory. It seemed like in the early round, MyP Esports had the advantage, but it slipped away because they failed to outright to hold any of the roaming that came back from the main lobby. So they took control over Kitchen. Great. They had man advantage. Fantastic. And then when the last 2 roamers who were playing inside of Kitchen started to make their way back from main lobby as they rotated downstairs all the way from tower, there was nobody holding the angle. Not one person.
But here's the thing. What do you do when you realize that the couple of roamers that were set in Kitchen have already retreated to the meeting room and galled all the way around?
I mean, one person holding the angle, man. One person holding the angle. You play in the hallway outside a Kitchen doorway, right? You can get the long angle, or you can even play in classroom. There's plenty of cover there. You can get the long angle all the way that can cover the rotation from the closet as well as the main hall.
But this is exactly the reverse of what we saw, because at the end, just we saw there was the Jaeger, no, the Bandit that was holding around the angle that rotated all the way from below, and then watching through the main hallway, spotted one player, wasn't able to take him out, only tagged him with 1 bullet, moved into the Kitchen. You saw the Bandit pull all the way back up to the top stairs, where he remaneuvered and set himself on White Stairs yet again.
Right, and the repositioning is all well and good, but there's a position you can play that unfortunately we just didn't see played by MyP Esports to hold those flanks. I mean, you can cut them off dead. There's no 3rd floor. There's 2 floors.
Oh, here we go.
Wow.
GCR standing all the way in the back of spawn, just waiting until
it's not
somebody...
supposed to happen, Migs.
There we go. Mig's going to be the first one to fall, and that's the Mira, your basically last line of defense next to a reinforced wall. Midi will get one onto GCR. At least that is something, and that is even the glass taken out. Yuna still moving in. They're still relying on that blitz because it gives them a lot more mobility than a Montaigne, if you will. But he still can flash players. He can still go for that 1v1 fight.
Right.
A lot of 1v1 utility. But here's the way that you win this out. And Famas in the back will be able to save him. Unfortunately, it's going to be Io in the Valkyrie here. Will be able to get the kill on Yuna and clean up the blitz.
Now a 3-on-3. Continuation of the trend as we see it hits the 2-minute mark just a couple seconds prior, and it's a 3-on-3. It's far from normal, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, very much.
Even
the Val contesting here. That is very ballsy, to say the least.
This is not typical Siege what we're seeing. And the defense right now in MyP just trying to wait it out. I think that's the right call, all things considered. Down 3 rounds, you don't want to lose another one, maybe just hold the angle. And even holding the angle, they're playing very, very aggressively onto, well, those angles. There's a Valkyrie so close to that Kitchen door, ready to peek around. And she is actually going to fall back even further, though, as I say that. All the way back to Cafeteria. As we see Lanchonete reassessing their strategy. They're going to go over to the main master bedroom before opening up likely that closet and planting inside of Generator. Now, they have the utility to do this. They do have a Habana, and they have enough time. Because, again, all that action that we witnessed happened so very long ago in the very first couple minutes of the round.
Yeah, the interesting part is that now finally there's a setup starting to happen from the attackers. It took them this long until the 38 seconds left until something happens, and the Habana can't even say, here we go, goes in for the 1v1. Io will get shot down, and 3-2 advantage now. They realize there's only 2 players now left, and then FK1 will get one, spots the second as well through the hallway, and that's the Jackal spawns to clean up midi. I really don't understand what's going on with MyP. It's like they force themselves, they can't keep themselves from getting too aggressive in situations they should definitely 100% not even challenge it.
So one of the easiest positions to hold as a defender in a disadvantage is top of white stairs and big kids dorms when you're trying to deal with a master push. I think you could 2v5 that easily, especially when you have a smoke. When you have a smoke, it is made oh so much easier because one gas canister and all of generator is somehow unusable for the attack. And what does that leave the attack? That leaves main hallway. So there is no good push in that situation, no matter how many men you have, no matter how much man advantage. You're gonna have a bad time. But unfortunately, MyP didn't use any of those advantages too well.
Yeah,
advantage.
After that, they had a mirror wall, they had a side wall that was already open to throw those smoke canisters.
They had a flanker coming from main lobby.
Everything was in their hands, and unfortunately, it did not work out. These tiny mistakes. Well, they're not really tiny, to be honest.
They're pretty
huge
We're on match
mistakes
point right now, and it's barely even been a match. Let's talk about that too. These rounds are transpiring just inordinately fast. This is not Siege. This is something I'm not amazingly familiar with. It is very, very, very quick. And I like it. You know, it's exciting. Keeps you on your toes. Very interesting, definitely. But at the same time, it doesn't leave a lot for MyP, specifically at the disadvantage, to reevaluate and reassess and try to go at it in a different way. So they're going to be feeling quite a lot more pressure here. And I think it's going to be on LANCHONETE to just not alleviate that pressure at all. Keep the foot on the gas, as it were.
Yeah, basically just keep MyP down as long as possible. And
kick them while they're down.
Yeah, and this is very much something that'll affect the mindset of MyP coming into map number 2 if this is a 5-0. But standard setup is going to happen here as the Ash will open up the side. And really, for one of the first times ever, we see a normal setup push from the main hallway. There's nothing really unusual about this, but here we go. Mega will get kill number 1 in GCR. Not too sure why he was even peeking through that area.
Yeah, I mean, the mirror window had been opened up at that point, I believe, and GCR just looking for a fight. Now, I get it, you're playing Ella, but, and I get it, you're up 4 rounds to none, but maybe just wait. You know, don't make the same mistakes that MyP have been making this whole match, and wait. The rest of his teammates, luckily, though, are going to heed that advice, even if they can't hear it, and they are going to be playing nice and slow. Good on them to do that. Now, smoke's going down in meeting hall door. That's a bit of a waste. You've got to imagine that was a miss. And as a result, Yuna's going to have enough line of sight to get a kill on what would have been the defuse planter. Unfortunately, because of a miss, it was not.
Yeah, and in my mind, I think they wanted to use that smoke to block off any players that are trying to push from the meeting hall, because they can't see where the setup is. You always want to smoke your opponents and not yourself. But drone's going to get thrown in by Ash, and Ash will get taken down. Nobody to support her there. FK1 with 1, and Yuna comes in for the second one on the Mira, leaving only Midi alive with barely any HP in the meeting hall solo, and Yuna will get the 3K to clean it all up. And here we go. Map 1 will go through a clean 5-0 to the side of LANCHONETE.
The fastest match so far in the qualifiers, you think, Milos?
So far in officially broadcasted games, probably.
Yeah, definitely. I think if you look back at the timestamps, that was probably the fastest outright match we've had yet.
There was only one mistake.
What was that, 10 minutes? 15 minutes, maybe? No, seriously, because not only was that a 5-0, and I'm not trying to hate on MyP here, but not only was that a 5-0, that was also most of those rounds still having a minute 30 or more left in them. So that's crazy. That is absolutely crazy.
It's absolutely crazy, but then when you look at it and see the way that MyP were playing, where they overpeak every single time, you saw one single mistake in my mind that was done by LANCHONETE, and that was the push from the Ella in the final round when they're up 4-0. And it's basically inconsequential. When you have the Ash that is sitting below, you're all ready to push, and there's only one player that dropped down, and that's the Habana of all people. That spells disaster. Number 2, the Ashe is sitting all on her own on the stairs when you know there's at least one player that's sitting below.
My thing was really the smokes on that last round. It's just the smokes. I mean, everything you said, but also the smokes. I get it. Maybe they're trying to deny the flank. You know what would do that better? Some guy with a gun staring at the flank. Seriously, that would do that much better. You only have so many smokes, and because you didn't use them to cover your advance, you lost your singular push. You lost your only... It was the Habana, like you said, who is trying to get that plant. Now, let's take a look at the highlights from that match. It did go by fast, but there were some excellent frags, especially from Yuna on that blitz. I mean, really making that operator seem powerful in his hands.
Yeah, honestly, the 3K at the end of this round, unfortunately couldn't get the 4K there, but does get shot down. And that was great pixel play. You really, it's surprising. It's not really surprising, but getting to this level of aim and just understanding the game.
Oh, here it
is fantastic. This is again pixel perfect shot, immediate reactions. You see GCR picking one up, and this was an extremely awkward fight in the main hall early on. But honestly, I'm not sure. This is just, how did this even happen? And
why
then,
did that Ashe not see the Mira? And then the
Ashe
didn't call for the Thatcher.
But you still have a player for the Thatcher.
Who's not calling for that Thatcher? Why is Ashe not saying, hey, there's one pushing main stairs, and the Thatcher's just chilling, looking at the drop down?
And the
that
Thatcher
right there,
didn't even see anybody moving from the back of the wall.
That right there, ladies and gentlemen, is just simple miscommunication. No, not miscommunication. Lack of communication. That right there is a defeated morally team. Nothing else. I mean, unless maybe one of those players, and I've gone through this myself. Maybe one of those players just can't happen to talk right now. It happens. Maybe the Ashe can't use comms. No. Oh, literally cannot use comms. Maybe don't have a mic.
We were talking about this a couple days ago.
It does happen. But in this situation, if that's going on, it's the sort of thing that justifies a rotation of the players. Really, I mean, you can't have that, and not at this level play, not anymore. No. So a lack of a call there, but that wasn't the end of the round. That wasn't the beginning of the end of the round even. The beginning of the end of the round was the lackluster push by Habana by herself with no smoke coverage.
No support at all.
And then there was the lack of the... If we're going to be focusing so much on the meeting hall and throwing smokes at meeting hall, may as well just take it, take meeting hall. They had a jackal, I believe.
They had a lot of time left there.
They had a lot of time. I mean,
the kitchen meeting hall wall was already blown up as well.
Yeah.
So you have every single option there. We can criticize for hours.
We're hitting too hard here on MyP. Ultimately, it was a bad match. It happens.
The important thing,
right,
is to recover from map 2.
Absolutely, and you're right. I mean, it could have been as well just MyP not liking Oregon. That does happen. That happens a lot. Very often here in Siege. We're going to be loading into the second map of this best of 3. It's going to be Consulate. We'll see if MyP can start to put up a fight against Lanchonete, or if this is going to be a 10-0.
Tank Ninjas is probably watching this. Tank Ninjas is probably watching this.
I mean, some people will remember that.
Too soon.
Some of you guys. Now, Garage going to be the defense here from Lanchonete, and it seems to be that both of these teams are preferring the bottom floor defenses on all of the maps they've gone to so far. Now, again, just a reminder, this is a best of 3. The top of the scoreboard there where you see the 3 little slits, that is not indicative of a best of 5. It's simply how it looks right now. Don't let the graphic fool you. Our third map will be Border, and for those of you just joining us, Oregon just transpired a 5-0 victory for Lanchonete over MyP.
Honestly, this is working out pretty well, but Lanchonete this time are just going for a pretty standard setup on the attacking side. MyP going for the castle here. No,
I like that castle. I mean, it's probably going to get sledged real fast.
Just a heads up, the teams are switched.
Yeah.
Around. So on the we'll get production on top of that in just a second. But MyP are now trying to set up on this defense, and they even go for Yuna on the castle. And they're putting all the marbles on the ground floor in this sort of play.
Yeah. I mean, this is the fabled roam strat in middle floor, defending bottom floor. And it was, I think, it originated in the Latin American region, I want to say. It did see play in North America, but was quickly cycled out because it just doesn't often see success. Now, MyP is going to be addressing this in an odd, well, not an odd fashion, no, a very typical fashion. They're going to be clearing from admin, and they will be contended directly by the defense of Lanchonete. Now, again, the top of those names, they're just a little bit backwards right now. We'll get on that.
Yep, Mega just opening up the bathroom here, trying to find maybe somebody is sitting right inside it here. Maybe trying to well, spot a player in the white stairs in the back. Maybe just peeking through the hall all top. And this is the thing, they're forced to take the fight all the way in the top floor before they move down. But here we go. Kill number 1 finally goes to the side of MyP at pretty much the 2-minute mark.
And that's the pinnacle of anti-roam in Jackal, going up against one of the greatest roamers of Ella and seeing success. It's a very good kill. It's got to help your morale, especially for MyP after coming off of that loss. FK1 is going to answer back, though, eliminating Mega. And now we have an even match. Will the momentum continue to cascade for Lanchonete, or will MyP be able to put up more of a fight? We saw an excellent match yesterday that went back and forth in Reckless and Era. I kind of want to see something similar here because I think it's possible. FK, though, going to take out Midi as he roams on the yellow stairs, and then another onto Io. What an impressive headshot there and hold overall. Now, the last 2 attackers are Jason's 13 and Mig.
Now, Jason's set right outside here. The flash is going to get thrown in, but already FK1's ready for him. Second flash going to get thrown as the Habana just bashes right on in. And here we go. Oh, no! What? Headshot from Jason staking out FK1. A fight should not have gone this way at all.
Not supposed to happen.
There we go. Finally, it's going to get dropped by Yuna on the castle, but not going to get taken out just yet. Information is going to get relayed here on the positioning of Migs, and they will spot him out. And that is a perfect angle, even throwing the RGO nade right onto him there, but won't be able to take him out. Both players are spotted. They know where they're at. There's 30 seconds remaining, and they have to go all the way down to the bottom floor.
I want to say this has been the longest round we've seen so far in this matchup, as we have only 20 seconds now on the clock. And as Migs and Jason's are going to be pushing down, well, actually, no, I guess just Migs, as Jason's is lingering upstairs with only 12 seconds. That is very risky business, and Revolt's going to get the headshot on Migs. Spawns takes out Jason's, and clearly splitting up in a 2 versus 3. Not the right call.
No, not at all. And, you know, you might be thinking, all right, maybe we can, you know, find some sort of weak spot to go through, but you would imagine...
Weak spot in the middle of the site?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, the only weak spot that I can think of, because I've seen this strategy so rarely, but you can kind of throw it out, an elevator drop from the main hall. And that's pretty much, because you still have the Habana. So technically, it's the only thing that you can do that might drop you into the site without having to deal with, like, the Alamine that's already been set up on the door. But even then, it's a long stretch.
Yeah, and more importantly, I mean, I don't think that MyP should be going for risky plays right now. That's the main thing to take away from me, is that was a bit of a risky play. Overall, the whole round was a risky play.
I mean, the Habana still pushed...
Right, but they lost so much manpower just clearing the roam. That's dangerous. You can't be losing those fights. And more importantly, you lost it to one person on yellow stairs. That was... If I recall correctly, that was FK1 with an amazing roam on those yellow stairs playing Jaeger. And he almost actually killed out the Habana. I cannot believe that FK lost that fight onto the Habana. If I'm being honest, that really bamboozles me. But he did. Despite that, his team still managed to win. Now, Mig's going for a peek outside, it looks like. Or no, just trying to bait it out. That might actually waste a little bit of time, maybe. Not sure what the intention was there, but he will lay down the reinforcement and play it safe, rightfully so, as they are currently without a single round in this entire matchup.
Yeah, and speaking of, you know, maybe not playing it too out of the box, that was very much out of the box. I'm not too sure what they were trying to do.
They didn't risk anything, really. When he started reinforcing it, the prep phase had just ended. So there's no way he was going to get shot, but did you really need to do that? Yeah. That's the question. All the same, again, a slow round being played here. Oregon, I guess, the fast map for these two teams, and Consulate quite the opposite, as Lanchonete effectively and efficiently drones out that main lobby. We're going to see FK1 start to pressure on into Piano once his teammates give the all clear. Very good teamwork here on Lanchonete.
Now, one thing I would have expected Lanchonete to, instead of going for Sledge on FK1, to go for a Buck.
Yeah, I completely agree. But I mean, they're both going to be useful here, considering you only have to open up a floor. Now, first kill of the round, Mega on 2 spawns. That was, I think, from above, I want to say. And he's gonna be refragged very quickly by FK1, who has been having an amazing match on Consulate thus far. Only a round in, he is getting frag after frag. So Mega getting the advantage and quickly losing it. I was getting a little bit too aggressive and not counting what he can achieve and trying to get more.
Yeah, this is the thing that, oh, here we go. This is perfect. So they use the Sledge to open up in Piano and just force the Bandit to look up. And in the meantime, the Thermite Yuna was readied up to blow up the sidewall. So now it gives the Glass a perfect position to hold half of this entryway.
Very interesting that the Sledge was able to do that to the Bandit, and yet there is a Jaeger above Sledge, like with a pre-opened hole. That is an impact grenade hole, I believe, probably from Mega. So a little bit of a misstep there from in terms of teamwork from MyP, but it's not going to matter in the end, I suppose, as the 2 panels have now been opened up in Garage.
Jason's going to get tagged to 50% HP there through the wall with the Glass, and well, Smokes are going to get thrown in, and Smokes is going to get spotted from above. FK1 still doing damage, even being so low on HP, and even tagged from before. They have to fall back for just a sec, pulling out the pistols even. And they will trade Midi and FK1, killing one another in this fight. Migs will fall, and Ayo is the last man alive, but right before we see the Glass falling, it's Yuna. They'll grab the final 2 kills. Honestly, I don't understand what's going on with MyP. This is mistake after the other. You saw the open hole for the Jaeger all the way up top, and still was not able to block
utilization whatsoever. Not one little bit, not an iota of using that hole that was predetermined to be used. That was the whole reason they opened it. You're right. You're absolutely right. That was a big misplay. It kind of feels like we're laying into MyP a little bit too much, but to be honest, this is a
You're playing top-level Siege for the spot in the biggest event in the entire year. You have to be on point in every single time, and this is not what we're expecting.
And Lanchonete is making a lot of good plays. Don't get us wrong. Lanchonete is definitely earning these rounds, but a lot of the time it's because MyP is letting them step all over their defense, their attack, what have you, by simply overlooking not only things that they predetermined, no doubt inside of dry runs, they were going to do, but also things that just are basic fundamental components of Siege. MyP struggling now. Now, they're not a bad team. I've seen them play before. They have a lot of skill. This might be them being psyched out. It could be they're having a bad day. We all know that happens in Siege. But whatever the case, they need to find something soon, or Lanchonete's going to walk away with this without any serious sweat.
Yeah, I never thought I would be saying this, but it's interesting that we finally see an Echo. This
With
is
a
the
shotgun.
Yeah, this is the first Echo, the second Echo we see in the past 3 days. Just because everybody's been busy trying out Vigil and seeing what he can do, that you don't really see him, able to do much anymore. Vigil, in my mind, would be a good replacement for Echo, but here we see Yuna still trying him out.
Vigil would be a good replacement for Echo, and within what context?
Within the context of, if you're not trying to basically delay that plant, you can just stop them outright planting by having the Vigil.
I guess
before
if you kill
even
them,
getting it.
fragging potential and all. GCR is going to get the first kill of this round onto Ayo. That's a nice entry there for MyP, but we've seen this from them before on the first round of this match, and they still managed to lose that round. So it could be just, unfortunately, not enough for MyP to win an actual round, but it's good. It's a streak of sunlight in an otherwise bleak day for MyP Esports right now.
And they're trying to get some more info on the Jaeger inside. Mega's just going to pick up his drone and maybe throw it out again. Just Jackal behind, holding off the back angle, always making sure there's nobody flanking them. And here we go, Midi will get a headshot straight on to FK1. And this is important now for Lanchonete to not get too aggressive and open up themselves to easy gunfights versus MyP.
Yeah, and maybe is a little bit of overconfidence from Lanchonete, and that's what's allowing that to happen. But either way, we do have MyP actually setting themselves up for that push into Projector. Taking out the barbed wire, they've situated themselves inside of main reception. They have the information. Migs on the A balcony, and now they need but wait, lay down smokes and go for a plant. There is a possibility of a C4 from below and an Echo drone or Yokai from Lanchonete though, so the plant will likely be delayed for a good long time, and the more time that MIP spends wasting here, the less they will have to actually make that push.
Yona's ready with the Yokai, and he will relocate just to make sure. Here we go. First shot's going to go off as GCR trying to get all the way behind his opponents here. Will land the headshot. Unfortunately, though, for him, there's still a quick shot onto Yuna. GCR will get the second using Ella perfectly. Does not even need to reload here as he rushes for one more. Drops him on the floor and one from the outside. Unfortunately, Migs ready for him here and leaves it all onto Spawns and Revolts. Now, the Habana is down on the floor, but Migs is... You think that this is the best position that you can be in, but with Crossfire, this spot can get absolutely destroyed, but no, they peek only one. Revolts, though, goes in for the final kill and lands the second one to clean up the Habana and deactivate the diffuser. Finally, it's Lanchonete to get one more round on the board, even though MIP this time around, I think, did everything right.
Well, they did most things right. They certainly set themselves up perfectly. It looked like they hesitated a little too long, and they also got a little lucky. Well, no, they didn't get a little lucky. Excuse me. One of the first major mistakes from Lanchonete, if we can lay into them just a little bit, they do deserve it. C4s from below missing wholeheartedly. The Mute just not able to deny that plant inside of the corner. It could have been a much different round, not even in needing a retake from Lanchonete if he had simply hit his C4. He had the information from Valkyrie cams. He had the information from Yokai drones. Y'all heard them marks, but still, he did not hit that C4, and it allowed the plant to go down. But, you know, they still managed to win the round. So it is going to be a flawless match so far from Lanchonete, and it's only bleak hope still for MIP Esports as they go into a middle floor defense. Now, middle floor defense is a site that can aid you at times. It can work against you. It depends on how proficient each team is. Now, I've talked to someone recently about this. Actually, I was talking to Troy about it, and he was like, "Yeah, any team who plays on Consulate, if they let it get through the ban phase, they need to be competent enough to attack and defend that middle floor without question. Given how versatile the map is overall, and how any site can be defended, any site can be attacked." How do you feel about that, Milos? Do you agree? Because I happen to.
Yeah, very much. Because unless you make a very headstrong mistake of just pushing into one hallway,
like pushing the main door.
Yeah. Basically, unless you do that, then it is definitely possible for the attackers to just have multiple angles of protection. And here you see Revolts just setting up the Claymore, where possibly we might see a run out from MIP here, just making sure nobody's coming in. Now, Midi's getting, I want to say, pushing a bit beyond his scope of defense on the Legion. You'd usually see the Legion holding off yellow stairs and just making sure nobody peeks through there. But he's going around securing the entire area, making sure nobody flanking from the other side of the map.
GCR going to pick up the first frag of the round, and he has been doing excellent on Glaz in this match. He really seems to favor that operator, shooting those bananas very accurately with his heat scope. Now, that's not going to give them the round win already, but it's obviously going to put MIP in the position where they're thinking to themselves, we have to get even more passive, and that's not fun. You cannot get into that mentality when you're so far down. You need to play your game. You need to play your game, not what the other team is forcing you to do. And it just seems like MIP is unable of grasp or getting their hands on that mentality right now.
Well, just Revolts droning on in, Spawns as well. It seems like these, when we saw droning from MIP, a lot of times there was nobody supporting them, whereas with Lanchonete, they always have somebody behind. There's always multiple drones seeking out different areas just to make sure there's nobody going for their own flanks. And now you see the castle wall is going to get taken down by Revolts on the Habana. And we might see a quick run out. Here we go. Gets the information. And here we go. Legion will take him out. Okay, just a second too late as he pulled out his phone out there to get info on the camera. Not the greatest spots to be in.
Now, GCR contesting the main door into the B bomb site. He's going to still have his smokes, I believe. Yes, he does. With only 40 seconds left to go, a 4-on-4, and Midi has managed to maintain this top floor roam. FK is going to take out Io elsewhere on the main push from Yellow Stairs. And a nade is going to miss because Yuna's already gotten the kill onto Migs. The defense is swiftly falling apart with 24 seconds. Legion falls down, but GCR is ready. Jason gets a refrag onto FK, but he's got to find 3 more, and it's not going to happen. The pistol comes out from GCR, and that's all she wrote. Round number 4 going for Lanchonete, and one single round away from a 10-0 victory.
Yeah, I was not expecting this at all, I have to say.
Neither was I.
Yeah, even though Lanchonete have definitely the more experienced roster, I want to say, it is still not enough because we've seen a lot of teams, especially in the qualifiers in the past couple of days, that didn't have these standout players, yet still were able to make it all the way to the final. Mention Reckless, for example, going all the way there.
I mean, Reckless, we talked, I tried to bring it up earlier, but it was too action-packed. These two teams really going at it. I mean, the rounds are usually fast, especially on that earlier map. But, yeah, Reckless versus Era was an amazing match, definitely.
Highly recommend rewatching
Very
it for anybody
heated.
that did not catch it.
Yeah, definitely. I will second that opinion. If you haven't checked it out yet, definitely go watch that VOD. It was, I think, probably the best match we've had so far in the stream qualifiers. So it's worth a watch. But now, Lanchonete going on to the basement. At this point, it seems like they can do no wrong. If they were defending outside, I feel like they might be successful. If the bomb site somehow through an error spawned in the on the platform of the front door, it seems as if Lanchonete would still win that round somehow, because they're making mistakes. Don't get me wrong, Lanchonete they're making mistakes for sure. I mean, they allowed the defenders in that last round, for example, to reestablish control upstairs. That in Midi, specifically the Legion, they allowed him to come up way too easily. There was nobody holding down the stairs of Visa, and he just kind of waltzed upstairs. He could have done a lot of damage. Unfortunately, MyP is making the more egregious mistakes in that, yeah, Midi made it all the way upstairs. He didn't do anything with that. He didn't accomplish anything, ultimately, even given the opportunity. That's the problem for MyP Esports right now. And
the setup is correct.
Again,
the execution is faulty.
Well put, thank you. And but again, this is not MyP Esports being a bad team. It's just MyP Esports having a bad day. These guys, you know, they've played much better than this in the past. And here's some coordinated play from MyP. I like this. They're saying, all right, if we can't force out admin, maybe they're trying to hold it. Let's just come from Visa, go up those stairs, and look for the roamers we know to be on that top floor. And they have already managed to wiggle their way into Projector. So well done, but a whole minute is what is the time that has transpired here, and they're just now going to spot out the Jaeger as he falls down. Now, this is FK1. Last time he was on those stairs, he did a ton of work, but he's not going to let that happen again as he falls further back into Piano.
A very smart decision-making. A lot of players would have set themselves in an even more complicated position that they might have spotted here behind. They know that there's the mirror wall in the bathroom. You really do expect that, but you don't really know what angle that you're going to be going for. But here we go, GCR getting kill number 1. It's Io that will fall. No more Sludge to play with, and definitely now cannot open those floorboards to soften up the defense all the way below.
We are going to see a refrag, though. Migs takes out GCR, the most experienced player, taking down one of the least. And we are going to have a 4-on-4 here, but you can tell Lanchonete clearly in the advantage positionally and when it comes to time. Again, a very slow round playing out on Consulate. Very different than what we were seeing on Oregon. Aggression, though, in towards the castle, who plays inside a bathroom. He just needs to stay alive for a couple more seconds, and he's already done his job, even if he doesn't get a kill here. And wow, a double kill here for MyP. Jason's onto Yuna, Midi onto Spawns, and a third. Mega eliminates FK1. It seems like the first round that MyP has life, and it's all down to Revolts now in a 1-on-4. He is the sole player in a position to keep this as a 10-0.
Still has the C4 in hand, so if they all decide to jump in, this can go really, really bad here for MyP. Goes in for kill number 1. Still doable. Just needs to keep his calm. You see the Jackal coming in all the way around. Unfortunately here, MyP are dropping in one by one, but as he turns around, you see a FAMAS shot coming in from Midi, and this means we actually have a round for MyP so far. They're not out just yet.
The fabled 10-0 narrowly being avoided there by MyP Esports, but I have to say it. Will it be enough? I really got a question. Is that going to be enough for MyP Esports to start a comeback? Are they going to get 3 rounds in a row now, or 4 total, I suppose, and get overtime? I somehow doubt it.
Yeah.
From the performance they've been giving us today, despite the, again, that was a very impressive round for MyP. I love the way they handled it. I really do. They came in as a team in a Visa. They took upstairs control. Once the roamers fell back, they droned that out, determined that the roamers weren't there anymore, didn't waste any more time, started their push into the site, and they used the angles that LANCHONETE gave to them. Thing is, though, again, LANCHONETE's been doing that the whole match. They have been leaving those angles open. It's just that MyP is, for the first time ever, going to be utilizing them.
Like that bathroom area, it was just completely open every single time. They needed 3 players to push through there to finally force out 1 player out. And, you know, at that point, you can't really do anything. You already opened up the sidewall that usually protects you if you want to go for a drop and go down into the food court, basically, below. So, honestly, there's no way to survive that kind of situation. I don't think this is going to be enough for MyP, personally, because
I don't think anyone thinks that.
Yeah, but LANCHONETE here is just going to look and say, all right, well, we understand we put ourselves with the setup in a bit of a complicated area. It took them a while, but MyP learned basically what we were doing. So now we just switch it up again, and it's going to take them 4 more rounds to understand what's going on. By that time, could have been already, you know, having a few drinks at the end of the round.
Right. Now, a very slow round so far. We're only 30 seconds in, so there's still plenty of time for it to get a little bit more accelerated. But LANCHONETE taking their time. They, I think, are going to take MyP Esports a little bit more seriously after that round loss, because they were getting brash. They were making more mistakes, I suppose, than usual, and that is why they managed to lose a single round. So they're trying not to let that happen anymore. You can see GCR, he doesn't want to peek these windows until he knows there's somebody covering the run out from the south windows from Piano. Because as soon as he peeks and there's someone prepped for that run out, he will die. He's peeking onto the B bomb site, though, as he's just going to say, screw it, we need to use all the time we have. And he will light up Mega on that Ela.
Yeah, Yuna's just going to throw in a drone, and he will even escape a bit of fire. Maybe waiting for somebody to jump out and go for quick kills on him. But Mega's going to get spotted. Even the impact nade's going to get thrown out of the side just to give the Ela a more favorable position, very close and tight where the attackers cannot really shoot into her. And this is a really good spot by Jason's, just eyeing out with the shotgun, direct 1-taps in this spot.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like the Ash has any potential to... Wow, he is going to take out Mega, as Mega foolishly attempts to rotate up the wide end of the yellow stairs, but Yuna's going to eliminate Midi elsewhere, and Mega will be picked up because of the cover of the smoke. Last minute of the round, and another kill for LANCHONETE.
And Meg's falling back, just trying to make sure that hall is going to get cleared. Yuna is going to drop all the way in with all of these smokes getting thrown. Mega still spraying through, but FK1 will win that one out as Mix will get shot down, leaving only 2 alive. Mega, though, will spray in at the Ela, takes 1, but GCR, the smoke is perfect for the Glass here. He's going to get spotted, but not taken out here. Pulls out the shotgun, unfortunately. Spawns is ready for him. Will nail the headshot with the Ash. And ladies and gentlemen, LANCHONETE clean it up with a 10-1 and advance to the grand final of the Latin American qualifiers for the Invitational.
Not only a 10-1, but one of the fastest matches I personally have seen in a good long time. Not only, again, it is 10-1, but it was also that first map on Oregon. Those rounds transpired extremely quickly. It was a 10-minute match, maybe, give or take a little bit of time.
This is Siege. It can take half an hour.
It could take much longer than half an hour.
Yeah. Without even getting into overtime.
Right.
It can take 35 to 40 minutes, including overtime. But it can also take less than 10 minutes to end with the way that we saw.
Yeah, and it all depends on the teams playing together. Now, LANCHONETE are going to be your victors here in the semifinals. They will push their way into the grand finals of these qualifiers, one step closer to going to the Invitational, but they're still going to have to play the winner of our next match, and that's going to be extremely exciting. Let's take a look at the replays for these 2 maps that we just witnessed, and LANCHONETE, again, very dominant here. And
this is a position where I do not even believe that FK1 was able to land the 3K at the end of almost the 3K with the Habana.
You know, it's a situation where your teammates are going to be going at it 1 by 1. You need 1 person to drone, maybe 2 people to drone if you're really cautious, and 2 people to push them at the same time, or 3 people to push them at the same time. But it's a defender anchoring hard on a position that that is really difficult to deal with.
The retake there from Revolts as well is one of those big mistakes.
Yeah, and that shouldn't be allowed to. That definitely shouldn't be allowed to happen. There's the round, of course, that we saw lost here for Lanchonete, the one and only, because of a series of unfortunate events and leaving themselves too wide open. But that's it. That's the match. Very quick.
Very quick, very efficient. Lanchonete, of course, taking this in a 2-0. We still have game number 2 that's going to be coming up. So that is MOPA team versus BRK. And I believe that'll be all from both of us for now.
Yep, it'll be
and so an Intero coming in.
Absolutely. And thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. Look forward to that next match. We'll be back shortly. Or we will, hopefully, in just a second.
Or will we?
Or will we? But yeah, that was a good match. Now let's take a break, and we'll be back soon. Their way into the grand finals of these qualifiers, one step closer to going to the Invitational, but they're still going to have to play the winner of our next match, and that's going to be extremely exciting. Let's take a look at the replays for these two maps that we just witnessed, and Lanchonete, again, very dominant here. And,
this is a position where I do not even believe that FK1 was able to land the 3K at the end, almost the 3K with the hub.
You know, it's a situation where your teammates are going to be going at it one by one. You need one person to drone, maybe two people to drone if you're really cautious, and two people to push him at the same time, or three people to push him at the same time. But it's a defender anchoring hard on a position that that is really difficult to deal with.
The retake there from Revolts as well is one of those big mistakes.
Yeah, and that shouldn't be allowed to. That definitely shouldn't be allowed to happen. There's the round, of course, that we saw lost here for Lanchonete, the one and only, because of a series of unfortunate events and leaving themselves too wide open. That's it. That's the match. Very quick.
Very quick, very efficient. Lanchonete, of course, taking this in a 2-0. We still have game number 2 that's going to be coming up. So that is MOPA team versus BRK. And I believe that'll be all from both of us for now.
Yep.
And so an Intero coming in.
Absolutely. And thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. Look forward to that next match. We'll be back shortly. Or we will, hopefully. Just a second.
Or will we?
But yeah, that was a good match. Now let's take a break and we'll be back soon. Their way into the grand finals of these qualifiers, one step closer to going to the Invitational, but they're still going to have to play the winner of our next match, and that's going to be extremely exciting. Let's take a look at the replays for these two maps that we just witnessed, and Lanchonete, again, very dominant here.
This is a position where I do not even believe that FK1 was able to win 3K, or almost 3K, with the
You know, it's a situation where your teammates are going to be going at it one by one. You need one person to drone, maybe two people to drone if you're really cautious, and two people to push them at the same time, or three people to push them at the same time. But it's a defender anchoring hard on a position that that is really difficult to deal with.
The retake there for Rookies is one of those big mistakes.
Yeah, and that should be allowed to. That definitely should be allowed to happen. There's the round, of course, that we saw lost here for Lanchonete, the one and only, because of a series of unfortunate events and leaving themselves too wide open. That's it. That's the match. Very quick.
Very quick, very efficient. Lanchonete, of course, taking this in a 2-0. We still have game number 2 that's going to be coming.
Welcome back to Rainbow Six Pro League, live in Katowice, Poland. My name is Parker Intero Mackay, and I'm joined by Devin Emzo Becker. And almost at an instinct, I forgot to say your name.
That's fine.
I
forget too.
It's okay. But we're bringing you live Latin America. It's the semifinals for the Latin America Rainbow Six Invitational Playoffs. We just saw an exciting matchup between Lanchonete and MOPA, and we'll bring up the brackets for you so you can take a look. And not really a close matchup.
Yeah, the 2-0 doesn't really illustrate how much of a 2-0 that was there. More almost a 10-0.
Pretty definitive, which is
Yeah.
very interesting because for most casual observers that haven't necessarily followed along with some of the, shall we say, roster changes that have happened in Latin America, Lanchonete is primarily the core of what used to be Pain Gaming. So you had 3 members of Pain Gaming, 2 members of INTZ. Pain Gaming, of course, finished 7th in Latin America last season, and INTZ finished 8th. They were relegated by MOPA. So essentially what you have is the core of the 7th and 8th place team taking on the new 8th place team, and a 10-1 is pretty surprising.
But you know, I mean, I know we've said upset a lot, but this whole bracket system has just been unexpected outcome after unexpected outcome, and that makes it just that much more exciting for us and for you. I don't even know what to anticipate for this matchup because, yeah, we can say easily, all right, well, you know, these are 2 of the best teams.
Right.
We expect, you know, it'll probably go 2-1, and then it always goes 2-0 when I say that. So we'll all of a sudden see one of these teams probably dominate at least one of the maps, but anything goes, it seems like, with this qualifiers.
We haven't really actually seen, I mean, other than, I think, like, Reckless versus Era last night in North America's finals is probably the closest matchup we've seen. It's been pretty much definitive 2-0s this whole time, and maybe with today with both BRK and MOPA, which is going to be a very interesting matchup. It will, we might be able to break that. Here's BRK's roster for you. Navi's, Diogo, PX, One, and Cyber. And some more roster turmoil.
Yeah.
BRK's only remaining member from last season is One.
Appropriately named.
Yes.
And I mean, the core of this team is actually 3 of the 5 are mostly from Merciless Gaming, so it's interesting to see them kind of transition over. We actually had someone from Merciless as well on MOPA before, so that team kind of breaking up and scattering to the wind. A lot of them ended up here, and as you said, 4 of the 5 that were previously on BRK that had been on Black Dragons prior to that. So this is, you know, players going a long way back. Now on the opposite team, which we'll talk about in a second. So it's going to be very interesting between these 2, to say the least, because of the history and the change-ups.
So you've got Diogo, who used to be on Black Dragons at one point. You've got Navi's, PX, and Cyber, all of who played for MG. And then, of course, One, like we said, the lone holdout for BRK. We'll take a look at MOPA as well, which is sort of a Latin America super team, so to speak.
Super team. So Sexy Cake being the most interesting one to pick up for that. You got Zagara, well-known player for sure. Bullet, also someone who kind of came in a little bit later, but really has stormed it. Nesk, everyone knows that name by this point. And then Uke. And Sexy Cake coming in from Nox as well, but otherwise the team pretty much remaining the same. Yeah. He was picked up, I believe, last season, I think.
By Encore.
Yeah, from Encore. And he's been a great player. Like, you can see why he's being kind of drafted around.
Yeah, it's going from Nox to Encore. Encore fared quite well last season. Weren't able to quite make the cut in Latin America. Of course, I believe they finished 4th. And then now joining what is the core of the old BRK. And of course, Zig, Bullet, Nesk, and Uke, very well-known quantities. Zig might be the most popular and well-known Brazilian player in Rainbow Six. They've been to a number of lands representing different teams, and now adding somebody like Sexy Cake, who is capable of top fragging on almost any position we've seen him on, should be very exciting. And of course, MOPA team is not actually an org. They are still in the process of looking for one, and along with Lanchonete, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, I believe both of them are also the 2 of the teams. So very interesting to see that we have this breakdown, and I'm imagining it's probably going to be a little closer than what we just saw.
Yeah, and I imagine MOPA trying to go for a performance to address that looking for team, give an org something really interesting to see.
So we'll take a look at our ban phase, the maps that won't be played today between BRK and MOPA. And I like that we have this. We've had stories in NA, we'll have stories in EU as well in 2 days' time. But most importantly, we have old BRK versus new BRK. We have Sexy Cake versus a lot of players that he used to play with. So it's going to be interesting to see. First one off the board is, of course, Bank, which is interesting because Bank is typically a matchup that the old BRK did really well on, which is the new MOPA.
It's been a Latin American map, maybe more so than the other regions. But I guess it's kind of out of the meta a little bit, I think, at the moment.
Yeah. Cafe goes next, Skyscraper, then Chalet, and we're still waiting on 2 more. But of course, if you're playing against MOPA, like I said, that old BRK roster, Bank was their stomping ground. So makes sense to get rid of them. Coastline and Border gone, and that's going to leave us with Clubhouse, Consulate, and Oregon.
I do worry about taking MOPA to Oregon. This is a team that has shown a lot of strength on Oregon in the past, as you were saying about Bank as well. So it is a little bit risky. Taking Border out was, I guess, probably the only real surprise here based off of the picks and bans we've seen for most of the regions and going into the ladder and stuff like that as well. Consulate we may just get to see again, and Clubhouse perhaps could be interesting. In terms of like which one of those is going to be the decider?
Consulate is a map that is played in Latin America ad nauseum. I think it would probably be in the top. I would imagine it's in the top 3. I don't know where it would place there, but we'll see which teams pick what first. And the good thing about Consulate is that I'm going to say this just for Troy Canadian here is that I've been admonished because I routinely call the front lobby of Consulate unconventional or unorthodox because as a site it is picked less frequently than the other 2. But I have been told that that is incorrect. So they can go on all 3 sites. All of them are viable.
As opposed to Clubhouse.
As opposed to Clubhouse, which really only has 1, and it's going to be our first matchup today on BRK.
So, and that one comes down to who's going to break Arsenal best, right? Because that's what you're going to see time and time again. But I feel like teams have gotten better at figuring out different ways to play bar. So I think it's gotten more interesting, despite, we had a lot of it year 1. Year 2, it died down a bit. Now we're going into year 3 potentially here, as things go on. I think it's gotten more interesting again due to some of the operators being able to play a little bit more roam than we're used to. And I think that's a big benefit because roaming is hard on that map as opposed to Oregon and Consulate, which both are a lot more roam friendly. So it'll be interesting to see how things shift over in terms of play because we're going to see the first map be a little more turtling, a little more trying to break those defensive structures. And there are a few different ways to approach that basement. So we also may see some of those switch. We haven't seen, like, for example, a lot of people pushing blue and some of those things, or even dirt. It's been a lot of the hallway and things like that. So I hope Latin America is going to play it a little bit differently than we've seen in the other regions because just it'd be nice to see some spice up.
Yeah, and it's interesting how Clubhouse changes by the season. When you have Smokes being as favored as they were in Glass was at his strongest, a blue and, dirt tunnel pushes were your go-to. You wouldn't ever really see anybody attack much on Kitchen, maybe hold the open hatch. Now, it's reverted to where it was a year ago, which is when these are Moto and Church pushes that we're seeing. So you'll hit the Moto hatch, you'll come down, you'll thermite the wall, or you'll Habana the wall, you'll work your way in there, you'll hold a long angle and prevent the rotate from Armory. And it's just, it's interesting to see the way that Clubhouse has changed. It's just a shame that we don't see that on more than one site. And as much as absolutely I agree that bar is changing, I still think you're in a position where the focal point of Clubhouse is the basement. If you are routinely losing the basement, you are in trouble.
It's interesting to see some of the vertical play evolve on it in terms of, I know we use that term a lot, but in terms of how Buck plays Kitchen and that angle down through the hallway floor and things like that, ways to get over that church wall. We've seen a lot of evolution in terms of trying to counter that church wall that has really kind of made things more interesting in that attack at least, but a lot of times it does end up like how they're going to shuffle down at the bottom. But we've seen, for example, a lot more pushes from that Arsenal hallway wall, things like that. It's been more interesting, more drops from Kitchen than you would expect. So, I mean, we'll see how Latin America will play it, but they like to get really crazy when it comes down to dropping, like you saw in Oregon, when it goes to those fights on Laundry.
Even
it's
Consulate.
a little similar.
They
absolutely.
Drop into the cafeteria on the basement floor of Consulate.
They feel like they can win those gunfights, so they'll try it.
So, and if there's going to be a region that's going to win their heads-up gunfights, it's going to be Latin America, who we've said this before. We've said this at LAN. We've said this in Pro League. They are typically the region that, for reasons that we don't really, I guess, understand, they are a region that often will pick operators based on the feel of their gun. That's why I think we saw so much Legion last season. They were the only region that was really reliably using Legion, and it's because of the way he felt as an operator, or at least what I had heard from a number of different players. We saw even in the previous matchup, Vigil being played more at any point than we've seen in the Invitational playoffs.
Yeah, that personal preference factors in.
So, and I mean, if you can get frags with an operator, sometimes that might be worth more than your gadget. I don't know. I don't play in Pro League. I just talk about it. So
yeah, that's what I love about having so many different regions involved now. And we haven't even really seen what APAC's going to bring in yet as well. So it's just, time and time again, these regions learning from each other, and then they're all going to clash at the Invitational, as I've seen from past Invitational. it's just chaos in terms of the meta when it comes to those. It's just like you can't expect anything because they're not just playing within their own region. And we've seen Latin America's, we're just talking about how they play. It's worked fairly well when it comes to these LAN events because they're in a situation where they have no ping and they've got so much LAN experience. They're so used to playing with the advantage of being able to play to their speed very, very well. Even being able to, shoot C4s out of the air is a big difference. And I think they've done a good job with that. But now that the other regions have more experience, we'll see how it goes down, but these two teams, we're going to see so much chaos, I imagine.
We're really excited. We'll load into Clubhouse for map number 1. This, of course, is BRK's pick, and we will see them start on defense with MOPA going on attack. And right off the back, Sexy Cake, who mained Legion for most of last season, with the Dokaibi as his very first pick.
We definitely see some players who are more willing to take on the new operators, like something I mentioned about KS in some of the previous matches. He would take kind of those new operators as well. And, some players are just better at adapting like that. Some really need to main their current operators. For example, Yuke on Glaz here is definitely not unusual. It'd be interesting to see how he uses it. Like we said, with Dirt Tunnel and Blue have not been as big a push for Glaz, but the hallway surprisingly has. They'll come down to the bottom of the stairs. And that's something we actually used to see a lot from Blackbeard, right? Blackbeard used to be the guy when he was more invincible, hang out at either side of that doorway. But now that Glaz has got the smoke thing, he kind of helped that push. We've seen thermite rushes, for example, on that Arsenal wall.
It's just a little thing here. Cyber is running the exact same skinnergization as Goddess does on her Jaeger, and I don't know if that's an homage. I have no idea, but still nice to see. And if you didn't tune in yesterday, of course, Era defeated Reckless, and Era will be heading back to the Invitational.
So they're going to have to fight one of these guys.
They likely will.
Probably. So we'll see, though. And you keep in mind, too, with the Glaz play, it'll be interesting because if Yuke is going to main Glaz on this, we know Cyber is a really good Glaz main as well. So I think we're going to see a lot of Glaz versus Glaz play here. But I'm really interested to see how Dokkaebi ends up being used in the push in terms of timing those phone calls. Are they going to be used early to kind of bait people out, clear out roamers? Or are they going to be used for the actual push itself, like to just get people on their phone, make that rush plan?
I think there's a pretty commonly held opinion that right now Dokaibi's main spot is in, solo queue ladder. Similar to Caveira, where you can take an operator who does exceptionally well without a lot of team coordination required. But I would argue that Dokaibi's most effective usage is going to be in your latter half of the round. Either you use one phone call right away to manage to find one of the roamers and pinch them, or use it in the last part to try and flush out the last remaining anchors if you're out of drones.
Nice thing is you got two, though, so you can make both those happen. They are going with opening the dirt tunnel, so we'll see if Zig... We've seen a lot of solo pushes by thermites in dirt tunnels before, and they may be there to contest it, but it is nice to have that additional pressure from a different side, even if you're going for a church wall push. So I do think it is the right choice, but we see the classic smoke versus thermite here going on. And the question is, who will win that battle? Because that will determine how the push starts to commence, because if that smoke gets taken down, the push can happen a lot faster from the other sides.
Absolutely, and you can see you'll have an Echo maybe inside a dirt tunnel or the Yokai drone there. You'll put up an ADS in there, have your smoke play, and then of course once Thermite is able to open up that tunnel, you can have that push really start. And one is going to have to contend with his former team as he is the smoke that is inside of dirt tunnel. We'll get some remodeling being done up top by both Buck and Glaz, and sitting very patiently under that hatch is Elysian. Now, one thing we have seen teams do is toss impact grenades up at that hatch. It will destroy the X-Kairos pellets and prevent that from going off and waste at least some utility from the attackers, but in this case, not successful. They managed to get that hatch and will go back to doing some more droning.
I like how careful this Buck is playing it from bullet as well. You saw the way he used his grenade and cooked it, so he didn't even have to go around the corner and expose himself potentially to Moto a little bit, just to get that grenade in there to take out the barbed wire. And then you have Glaz going around to different Buck holes here and actually using those kind of to help so that Buck doesn't have to be doing all that. And that's good teamwork between these guys. Unfortunately for them, though, the rest of the team not exposing themselves.
Mira's trying to get some fire down. First smoke goes off. Both phone calls from Dokaibi are still in play. Yuke will rush in, and that Ella just a bit too nimble for him as Diogo is first frag as Nesk takes him down. That is the Hibana getting the first kill, but an answer back as the Jaeger of Cyber will eliminate Dokaibi as she's only able to get off one of her logic bombs. A flurry of actions. Navi's takes 2, PX and 1 get it on the action, and BRK takes round number 1 in a hail of gunfire right as MOPA pushes.
I think that really came down to them just not exposing themselves. You saw how much effort they were putting in with the Glaz, for example, with the Buck, trying to get those angles, trying to find someone to give themselves away, and they just would do it. And you saw the push the last 30 seconds. That is never a good idea. But then again, we see that a lot in Latin America. Just those heavy final pushes, just kills going left and right. But BRK, clear advantage in that battle because they weren't softened up at all. And as I said, of course, we're going to have Glaz on the other side, but surprisingly not from Cyber. We're going to see it from One instead. Cyber on Thermite seems like an interesting choice.
Right, it's when you think of Glazes inside of Latin America, of course Psycho is going to be one of the first people who comes to mind. But yeah, Cyber did a very effective job last season, and almost I think played Glaz more often than any other operator. I would have to look into his stats, but when I think of Cyber, I always think of him on that Glaz.
Especially on Oregon.
Oh, of course.
But I mean, we'll see. One is a good Glaz player, I would assume, as well. I mean, it's not a super specialized role that no one else can do. But at the same time, maybe you're not utilizing a good flick fragger with someone like Cyber by putting him on Thermite. But then again, you don't want to underestimate Thermite's guns. We've seen people who are really good fraggers actually be way more useful with Thermite than you'd think, because once his utility's done and he's free to frag, he's actually done a huge favor for his team and can continue to do so, sometimes more than other operators, and so that is an underappreciated factor.
That's why you'll see people run the hollow on him, and that also is kind of humorously referred to as Fragmite, because he is capable of getting frags, of course. And I mean, hey, look at England a couple seasons back when he was exclusively maining Thermite. He was doing quite all right on the scoreboard with it, and that's just one that comes to mind. Now, BRK has already stormed inside of Garage as we just hit the final, I guess, like the first bit of action here in round number 2. And I'd imagine with a Ying being brought, Ying is somebody on Clubhouse who I'm surprised we actually don't see more of. Now, we saw her a bit, put her up on top of that hatch in Kitchen, have her drop down the Candelas, smoke out, maybe have Glaz push in through Dirt Tunnel, and now you have pretty good opportunity to cover most of Armory. It's really going to depend on whether they've opened up that Armory wall that leads to the hallway or not to rotate in and out of Church itself.
I really feel like they need to do that, because when we've seen the Ying play to Kitchen drop, a lot of times Ying ends up blinding teammates, because otherwise Ying has to solo drop, and I think that's been a big problem for that strategy and why we've seen it fail many times, and teams don't seem to have an alternative to that for the Ying push. So hopefully we'll see something a little different. But we do also have Zig on Pulse here, so you could anticipate that he could see, hey, they're prepping for a drop in Kitchen, and that could be a problem for them. Zig, of course, one of the best Pulse players, I would say, in Latin America. I imagine we could see some good C4 action from him.
Not even just Latin America, possibly any region that we've seen right now. The only person that really jumps to mind at the moment who I could say could give him a run for his money would probably actually be Canadian, who was mentioned earlier in the broadcast, is particularly formidable on Pulse himself. Now we've hit the halfway mark of round number 2. Still a lot of heavy drone work being done. They really haven't begun their push yet on the site. They're finally starting to line things up. You can see that wall is still in roughly good shape. There is a rotate in if they need to from inside of Church as Navi's creeps his way in from Moto, looking to try and see where the Valkyrie cam is as they assemble themselves ready for the final minute.
This is definitely a lot more progress than we saw from the other team at this mark, though, so I think Navi's in a good position, but a first kill going off onto One, not starting out well for them, but at least they trade it back.
Yeah, and Sexy Cake takes him down, but as you said, PX jumps in. That's the Ibana getting a kill. Navi's shoot open that wall just inside of Blue through the long angle sitting inside of Moto. And what little is left of Cyber will have to try to deal with opening that wall up. Yuke comes right in to try and pick up his teammate, but he'll get shot through the wall as well. And Navi's finishes off Bullet before Yuke can get there. So he uses that smoke canister rather than trying to aid his teammate. Probably a smart idea, as they likely both would have been taken down in that ensuing firefight.
Nice
now
throw.
Zig trying to repel, and a great throw. Wow, Cyber only had a shred of health, but doesn't really matter. And that is a big kill for them. Thermite off the board, and they were able to bandit trick the exothermic charge, so that wall will remain safe. And now you can hear 15 seconds. 3v3, Yuke has taken some damage, but everybody else largely okay. Navi's at F2. He's having a great match so far. He'll take Zig down, Pulse off the board. The smoke manages to refrag, and that'll be the Twitch. And now with PX, it's all up to the Ying of Diogo, and they'll just simply run out of time. MOPA plays a war of attrition, and they win. It's all tied up.
They had a great early progress. Getting Twitch down into Moto was a big advantage there because he was able to sit there safely, and that opened up the position for Thermite to come in. But the problem is, we were just talking about them using buck play, for example, from above to soften up that church wall with those nice angles kind of above the wall. They didn't run a buck. They ran that Ying instead, and we didn't see that really factor in enough to be able to be the determining factor to maybe just run a buck next time instead of that, because had they softened up that wall, we wouldn't have the bandit tricking, right? Because it was a situation where they could have naded him out, got a position where Thermite could have timed that right, they could have got that wall open, and I think that would have fell down differently, and that could have gone in their favor because of such strong map control on the Moto side.
I often wonder why Latin America seems to prefer Sledge and Glaz to fill Buck's role.
Could be the gun play, like you
It
said.
could be. And I know that there are even a number of teams in the regions where we see a lot of Buck, which is most primarily North America, but also somewhat EU, is that the C8 is a very odd weapon for most
Sure
people. And there are debates over whether it constantly needs a buff, or do you up the damage? Is the recoil unwieldy? Do you run it with an ACOG? Do you prefer it with a holo? And it's probably one of the most interesting guns in that there is really no consensus as to what to do with it. And you're right, it could just simply be they feel that he's kind of a weird operator. He's big, he's bulky, he's a 2 armor, 2 speed, and he has a gun that you might not be able to control. Let's take the L85.
You have to keep in mind, it's not just the L85 being reliable, it's also you have an SMG to go inside with, and we know how lethal that is from smoke play.
Yes.
So I think that factors in versus having a skeleton key.
And don't forget, too, that if you run an ACOG on that L85, you can engage at both close and longer distances, which is something that Buck doesn't have access to. If you run a holo on Buck because you think it makes the recoil easier, you switch to his pistol, and you don't have any longer or closer
Smoke can't
range.
do it either.
Exactly.
So. But nonetheless, Sexy Kid going to try that Dokkaebi again. We'll see if that factors in. I mean, it worked out pretty well for them last time. We'll see if they make it work this time.
He only got one phone call off before he perished, or logic bomb, as it's referred to as, if I recall correctly. And we'll see if he can use that more effectively. And an interesting take, they'll first start with Cash, and then they'll likely try to have to take Bedroom at some point. Their push will come down to Garage, some late touch-ups being done, and wow, Navi's winning a fight he probably shouldn't have, and I wonder if his operator helped him at all. Bullet takes out PX, and that's the first time that PX has been, or this is another time rather, that PX has been taken down very early.
That's a good kill too, because you want C4 off the board when you're going in kind of a plant. Although a plant on pool table benefits more from that, but they do still have a smoke to stop that. Interestingly, they brought a Rook of all things though on this. They're definitely going to have him be a hard anchor. Although they could throw him upstairs, I suppose, if you want to counter that. But it's surprising to see they're not really taking Bedroom, which has been such a benefit for attacking this, but they also didn't bring the buck for that.
Right, you can take care of that Bedroom. You've got the hatch up top. Control pool table, especially if they've reinforced the wall onto strip, which means that they can't rotate in. You know, you see some teams, they'll leave that strip wall exposed, so that if you have one playing in strip and there is a push coming in through the bar and towards the pool table, you can rotate yourself. Not really the case, though. And we're about to hit final minute of round number 3, and though there was brief action about a minute ago, nothing really so far. Navi's dropped shots, he'll take out Uke, but Bullet there to ensure that his teammate is traded off, and that's a 1-for-1 to put us at a 3v3.
And as you said, Sexy Cake not using either of those phone calls yet. He really should do that as he gets taken down, not going to get the opportunity to do so, and I think maybe he needs to rethink how he's using this operator because it's just not getting the effectiveness out of the utility that you'd expect. And now in a 2v3 situation, attacking that stockroom with the wall wide open like that, I can't see this working for them.
You have a smoke inside as well as the Jaeger guarding by front door and the, don't forget, ACOG of the Rook situated. There will be another trade as Zig eliminates Tiogo, but one and then Cyber join in. And right now the defense just keeps going back and forth, and the rare bar win for the defenders. BRK, really good position, and look at that. That Rook proved to be a good choice.
Yeah, absolutely. The ACOG works very well because there's long lines of sight in that particular bomb site. Because you could play on one side and then counter the other side, gives you the ability to be a little more flexible, and I think it's still a good choice on that for that reason specifically. I mean, Doc as well could do the same thing, but interesting. The Sexy Cake, as we're talking about, again, the experimenter here going to be bringing that Vigil, which we have seen a little more interesting play with over the last couple days.
Yeah, and it looked like he was almost going to be locking in Zofia as well before a light change, and Zig was going to pick Caveira. I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but they're going to go bar as well, but they're going to bring an Echo this time. Of course, they have to go anywhere but the basement. The bar makes the most sense because, I mean, even though Latin America is willing to take chances, maybe go rear stage if you're playing on Oregon, or maybe, you know, even go up to the CEO
Not so much
office.
on this map.
Yeah, on Bank. On this, you don't really want to take choices or take those chances. Your choice is pretty simple. You go with the bar, and An Echo here seems like it could just be a preference pick. Now,
Yeah, that's one you can hide behind the bar
Right.
and take advantage of it. I don't think that's a bad pick. We've seen that quite a bit from North America even. I think it's a good choice, but you have to be careful of the ceiling heights.
Right.
It's something you actually have to deal with. Sometimes you hit the pipes and things like that. People don't expect it, but you opening up the wall, like we saw how effective that was last time, Smoke playing in there with the wall open. But I think they made a smarter choice with Diogo. Having the Ying there can push that Smoke a lot more effectively than we saw last time because he can flash, clear him out, push in even through the smoke, take shots, but there is that wall open.
So with the smoke and the Echo available to them, you can put the smoke inside of stock and have the Yokai drone inside of strip, or you can even have it by the pool table itself, or even put both the Yokai and the smoke in there so that when they're disoriented, if there's any barbed beneath them, you can get the most use out of one of those toxic gas canisters. But we'll see how the push comes out.
I think that Echo could be the savior for the smoke if he's able to stay in there, because that is one good counter to a Ying push. For example, the Candelas. But Ying's going to push in, it looks like probably from the garage here. We'll see if that Glaz factors as well, because Glaz is kind of I mean, he's not playing the stock play we usually see him for.
Right, Glaz is effective inside of strip if you can open up both panels by the pool table or billboards or billiards rather. But I wonder why you don't have a Glaz maybe harass on stock and then have the rest of them focus on a strip push, or heck, even have Glaz come in through bedroom and hold the stairs so there isn't a push that they can do successfully. Regardless, they're coming inside a strip, and that's exactly where the Yokai is. So they'll have the Yokai in strip, 2 disorienting blasts as very aggressive MOPA will get, and they'll be rewarded as Vigil paying off. Diogo goes down as one wall blows, and it is just, it's the Alamo right now.
Yeah, it's not working out for that Ying push. They just was a lot more contesting in that club than they anticipated. That's become a big problem because the Glaz wasn't able to get the shots off he needed.
You see there's 2 defenders right now playing separate angles right around that L column inside of strip. You've got the Bandit prone and you've got a Vigil. Now, depending on how the Vigil is using his utility, they know that he's in there, and that could make it very effective for the defenders. But the Vigil's not going to last too long as they're able to take him down in a nice crossfire, but Zig is still there to eliminate one before PX pushes in. So you've lost 2 of your roamers, but you've also taken down 2 attackers. Your Glaz and your Ying, those are huge targets that you've eliminated, and down go with them the smokes as well.
And there goes Navi's as well. Now it's just down to the last 2. Both got decent guns, but this is not a gunfight. You need to push in there with utility, and they've got more than enough utility. Assuming the Echo Drone's still alive, we saw a dodge on the stairs, dodge the Ash. That's a big deal. Oh, the push out too. A little cocky there with the man advantage being lost now.
Ill-advised by Bullet. You didn't really waste much time at all. That was a fool's errand. 40 seconds. Good timing for those smokes to go down, but depending on the way that the actual smoke is registering, you could sneak in around that corner and bid an opportunity in. However, that will expose you to that little opening in the wall just by the stairs, and some heavy flashes going down, and you completely flashed. Echo is on his drone, so we don't know where the Yokai is located, but you can see that Nesk is still on it. Final 15 seconds, and both members of the FBI will come in and push. It will be in the doorway. The first Echo drone is going to miss. Cyber comes in and takes 1 down, and it sounds like they'll get it again, but Cyber, a big 2-kill round for him. And wow, he got 3 technically as he took down Bullet. Every single member of the final 3 of MOPA were eliminated by Cyber, and the attackers take their first round.
That was a really good play by Cyber. I think he pretty much saved that single-handed because they were facing up against the 2 plant deniers. They knew that the pool table push wasn't going to work because that's where Smoke had a lot of accessibility. He was going to be preparing for that because they had the wall open. And it was a situation where they knew they had to plant in that doorway, and I don't think the defenders really adapted for that properly, thinking, hey, they're probably going to go plant doorway, and they should have been a little more prepared for that. Maybe peeked at the same time. Smoke just had bad timing, though. He got caught in the back as he was running around. But the good, smart, fast plays by Cyber, and him being still alive, you see a lot of Ashes die early, being the entry fragger, him staying alive and catching someone running out on him, that probably saved it. Maybe they were hoping they could get him on the run out, and that would have probably changed things, because Thermite planting alone right there, death sentence.
I don't like pointing too many fingers, but that was a very poor miscue from Bullet, essentially wasting 1 member of the defense for nothing. And
that was what changed all the advantage, because the other 2 guys need to be on plant denial.
Right, and with Valkyrie too, I don't know if we saw it, but could have still had a C4 available as well. And yes, your first Yokai blast missed, but you still had the smoke there with at least 1 more smoke grenade, and it also looked like when the smoke went to hurdle, it was a slow hurdle, and that could have been all it took. And Cyber was there by the time they were able to get, I believe it was Nesk off of that Echo. off of his yokai drone, it was
And that's the thing is, like, I think he was doing a fairly decent job as the Echo player, managing to keep it alive despite all those denials at club, the denial on the stairwell as well, the going up to bedroom. So he was doing a great job. Yeah, he missed one. No big deal. The problem is he had to get off it, as you said, because he had to cover for the smoke because that third person threw his life away. And that's where you really need man advantage with two people like that, especially with an Echo. And that's the big problem with playing Echo, is you lose someone that could be a gunner when he needs to be denying plants.
I have heard from a number of people that think making Echo more viable. Not that I think that Echo really needs a tweak, but potentially having his speed to get on and off his drone be sped up, so it doesn't make him as much of a disadvantage, because everything about Echo feels slow, because he has a 3 armor, of course, but just being able to hop on yokai, I know it takes the same amount of time as looking on cameras and all of that, but it could be a fairly small tweak.
Yeah, as opposed to smoke, for example, that is a plant denier that doesn't need to take a lot of time.
He just tosses his toxic bags, and once the throwing animation's done, he can detonate them. Now,
there we go.
On to this round, we see a buck emerge, and he can actually look through these holes. This is, I believe, the second time we're seeing a buck, because I believe MOPA ran a buck the first round as well.
And they had you working the glass on the holes.
That they did. They were both doing some work upstairs. Now, they have gotten the hatch inside of the bar and are now working away on the kitchen. A bit late for them to get a kitchen push.
That was a real big problem last time, too, was being a little too late on it. So they're going to need to get more progress downstairs faster. Maybe they need someone pushing dirt or blue, because they're just not getting a lot of progress this direction.
Yeah, usually the kitchen hatch is one of the first places you'll sprint to as a Hibana, hit the kitchen hatch, and then rotate into bar and take stock last. And
well, because it pushes like a pulse out or anyone else who might be sitting in Arsenal.
Or even we've seen some pulses sit up above kitchen and have been able to shoot down, take out those X-Kairos. Smartly, Yuke is going to drop inside a Moto. It sounds like there's a C4 prepared for him. This time around, it doesn't go anywhere. We'll get disoriented from the Elamine. That's Navi's gadget at use. You see that there is at least one defender playing inside of blue. Sexy Cake goes in and once again dies without using those logic bombs. A bit of bad luck as PX is able to outduel Yuke, and then Zig goes down to Navi's, and MOPA is literally just throwing bodies at the site at that point. It didn't really seem like there was any particular strategy involved other than having that glass cover for them. But when you get disoriented in Moto, it makes it a little tough.
Yeah, I think they were trying to go what I said, which was trying to get more of those frags early to soften up the site, but just missing all of them, bringing it now to a 5v2, and that's the first kill that they've made with a grenade rather than bullets.
And they'll grab the diffuser inside of Moto. They see a kill hole. Jaeger is prone in blue, and Cyber will take a couple shots onto Nesk, who isn't really able to do much other than take down one. Now, Diogo is at full health. Bullet gets taken out by PX, and Nesk, with just a fraction of health, is going to have to go in. He sees the Toxic Babe down, but the smoke isn't able to capitalize. They'll just sit and wait. Goes for the Mira, but cannot frag hunt in time. No chance of getting the diffuser off as well. This has been a pretty quick affair too, and now PX managed to get that last kill. 4-1 for BRK.
Definitely a great start for BRK. You saw that. I think it's just down to some of the times we're not seeing these great attacks from MOPA. We saw like the failed attack, for example, on the bar. Bar should have been the easier one because they've been really struggling attacking Arsenal. Both teams have been winning it, but Bar should have been the one they were able to win. But because of the flawed attack strategy of trying to take stock with that wall open, not having a good counter to the smoke, so he had an angle, and then being able to push that doorway constantly to just crossfire them, left them in a really bad spot. And they just don't seem to have figured out, okay, these attacks aren't working. They're trying to make adjustments, but they don't seem coordinated in their adjustments, and they don't seem to be able to rotate when their attacks aren't working, and I think that's really what's dragged them down to being match point now. Hopefully the next map's better.
And for MOPA, that's been 2 rounds now, or 3 rounds rather, that they've taken a Dokaibi, and really, her gadget has not been effective. Has not even really been employed. In fact,
I doubt he's hacking phones either.
Yeah, well, I mean, they can hack phones when both times Sexy Cake has been either the first or second to die on his team, and they haven't been able to get a frag. So, and even then, cam's not really that important on this map, especially downstairs.
There's none downstairs.
There's only one cam downstairs. It's the top of the stairs, and
you
know, most of the time that really only covers you for that angle down to Armory or Arsenal rather. So it's interesting that we're seeing her used, and I don't think as effective as we want. And Sexy Cake right now, I think, needs to find something to improve his performance right now, and I think that goes for all of MOPA, who came into this as the first overall seed in Latin America.
I feel like maybe just this is not their map. I mean, obviously they still have a chance to come back here, but I do hope that the next map, which should be a little bit better for them, just because this one can be very one-sided, as we're seeing. Navi's, though, that early progress just thwarted by Bullet.
And that was with a drone escort as well. You saw that one was on a drone there to find Bullet, and either lack of coordination or anything along those lines. But Bullet immediately makes up for that ill-advised run out 2 rounds ago by getting first frag. And that is not only the top fragger of BRK gone, but also the Twitch drones and probably the best weapon as well in the F2 on the attacker's side.
And I mean, keep in mind, this is the site that both teams have been able to defend. We haven't seen the MOPA team, or the BRK team crack this yet, and losing a good man right off the beginning, we'll probably see a 2-4 at least going to the next round just because of that. And time burning off here, I mean, yeah, only a minute's been burned off, but you lost an important attack operator that had map control potentially of that blue. That being lost now, they're having to kind of adjust. And they've been at least better at adjusting than MOPA have been.
I mean, Twitch is not going to have the most use against this composition. You mostly look for trying to take out those Valkyrie cams or maybe even the Ela mines.
No mirror windows
and
open.
Most important, is going to be the bandit charges, as there is no mirror for them. So that is your priority, and at the moment you can see all the bandit charges still in place. So that is going to mean a different attack for BRK, who seem a little listless at the moment, especially 30 seconds has been spent rotating.
And again, no buck as well. Remember, there was something we talked about before, was that didn't help them soften the side as well. So for the strategy, and so it seems like now you have Thermite potentially rotating out to Dirt Tunnel last minute because they didn't get blue control.
And it's going to be a tall task for you to push in through both Kitchen inside of Arsenal and then also through Dirt Tunnel. You see a pulse there, but they've got him on good drone, and there's actually 2 drones on him. And he'll think that he managed to get 1 and doesn't need to get marked from one's drone sitting up at the hatch.
Still
trying
burning
to
their
open
time,
it up. And yeah, but they're doing a great job of killing time. And you can see that even though it is a 5v4, there really hasn't been too much of an engagement. Diogo goes for the smoke and manages to land none of those shots whatsoever on the pulse, but Yuke will get taken down, sounds like from a couple shots from the glass, and they will just hot drop it. Look at who's still there, the pulse. And nothing yet. Sexy Cake rotates in, and down goes Diogo as Nesk now climbs up the stairs and takes one down with him as Sexy Cake. A double kill onto Cyber, and that's going to leave 1 against his former team as he rotates around and goes towards the stairs. With 15 seconds, Glass's DMR is good, but it also only has 8 bullets in it, and he will need to use those wisely against 5 defenders. All they need to do, and what a shot on the Zig! Oh my goodness! Great start, but 3 seconds, and he knows that he will quite literally save the op. He gets Nesk too, so some stat padding from 1. But MOPA manages to stave off defeat just for the time being, and they head to attack as BRK is still on match point.
That was pretty much what a good illustration of what I was talking about earlier, why those Ying pushes aren't working, was exactly that. He had to push solo into that, and it's very predictable when you have to push solo into that. They know the Ying's going to be hot dropping because you can't waste those Candelas. So it's very rare that you see the Candelas thrown out and not followed by a drop, especially when it's in a desperate situation like that where they've already lost manpower, they've already lost time. They could have potentially made it work a little bit better. For example, had they been able to keep, I think it was Novi's in the blue tunnel, then they would have had a little more pressure. However, that dirt tunnel push really could have been key to that had they timed it right, because if they were able to get dirt tunnel control and start crossing that, that would have made it much harder to take out the Ying on the drop. But again, those Ying drops just aren't working. They're a cool idea, but we see them time and time again. You drop, you die, then the rest of your teammates drop, they die. It's because they feel like they've already committed to that, and they have to follow it up, and it's just throwing meat into the grinder at that point.
I would liken dropping from Kitchen very similar to dropping from Skylight and Cafe Dostoevsky, is where there's just a lot of angles that you have to worry about. And yes, there are times when you can use, if you have a Capitao as asphyxiating bolts or his smoke, I guess, arrows. Same with a Glaz or same with a Ying. But when you do that hot drop in Cafe Dostoevsky, it's very, very tough to compete against it. And I think similar things here. It looks like Cyber's actually going to go for a run out at some point. I'm not sure if he's going to go for a spawn kill or if it's just going to be on...
There we go.
Camera
on camera action.
Cam on cam action, and looking to see if anybody peeks around that corner. Now, he knows he's correct. There are a lot spawning in that direction, but none that are going to bother to push strip. They'll all head towards the garage, which will likely be a stock take at that point.
Hopefully he had someone else watching the camera, because he could have had someone watching the camera to know when to push that, but I feel like he was kind of doing that solo, doing his own thing, so it didn't unfortunately work out. Looks like we could be seeing that cash push we were talking about before, as opposed to going to the bedroom, and that I don't think that worked super great. But at least we don't see them trying to push into the club this time with that Glaz, which just did not work out. And we're also not seeing the Vigil. I'm sorry, that was on the other team when they were playing in there with the Vigil. But he is bringing out the first Zofia, which you mentioned earlier, that you were surprised to see him not sticking on. But
Macy J was in chat earlier today and was saddened that there weren't any white noise operators, and Sexy Cake read that, heard the call, and is single-handedly bringing representation to the 3 newest operators that were introduced at the start of this season. But I'm very curious to see how Zofia is used in this instance. Navi's, who is doing so well, will continue to do so. As down goes Bullet, you've lost your Twitch again, and that's ironic because that is the exact same change from last time. It was Bullet who was playing and took out the Twitch of Navi's, and now this time, other way around.
They just know how each other's play, I guess, on that particular operator. I could see the utility here of Sexy Cake being able to use those stun grenades, for example, to take out the smoke in there, something that was a struggle before, trying to clear him out. So that there is some utility there. I mean, the impact, the grenades themselves may not do much, but they could do some damage as well, because he's got to stick in specific spots. And that's what they can play against here. But it looks like they're going for a similar kind of push. Diogo, though, at least getting another kill, and that's really hurting them.
Yeah, and it looked like a cheeky run out from Cyber was going to land with one, and Yuke just gets outfoxed there as Diogo takes him down. The smoke's still able to go off. Remember, they might not know that the Glaz is down, but regardless, they managed to finish him off. Sexy Cake, I don't know, sorry, my mic just cut out for a second there. Sexy Cake manages to take out Navi's, and that's at least 1 for MOPA. But there's a minute left.
Probably too little too late at this point on a 4v2 with your last potential round.
Right, and this is BRK's map, so not too upsetting.
Ooh.
Wow, Nesk just slow peeks that corner and takes the head off of one, and it looks like they might actually have control of stock. Nesk gets hit by the Legion Mine, and he goes for some pre-fire just in case the Mira would put, or sorry, rather the Valkyrie would push him, and nobody does. PX still situated just by that machine. And Sexy Cake, a 4K so far. It's all up to Cyber now, and single-handedly the rifle of that Zofia putting in some significant work. Now they will need to grab that diffuser. Cyber will rotate inside of stock as he slow peeks around. Sexy Cake, who needs this round more than anything, will be deprived and denied that ace as Nesk walks in and takes out Cyber.
I think a big part of that working was managing that slow peek on smoke, but then also getting Legion Mind and still pushing, knowing that they were going to peek was great. Like, he's like, okay, you're going to peek. You saw Nesk pre-fire, so he could pull it out. Right. The other guy was just like, you know what? I'm just going to take this, and I'm just going to fire at them, taking out 2 peekers. Probably the second one shouldn't have peeked, but maybe he was hoping, oh, hey, he's going to go for the reload. He's going to back off because he just got a kill, right? He's not going to push it on me. But I guess that was just a smart read on his part, pushing it and continuing to go for that, and that really turned it around. I like that Cyber was at least able to dodge Nesk's drone towards the end there. That could have been really bad, but they still knew where he was coming from when they saw him come in, and it just, there wasn't a lot he could do. I like how he's fighting against 2 in a doorway as well. 1 crouched, 1 standing, and just this bar of death coming from the doorway.
And my apologies there. That was actually a 3K from Sexy Cake. Wow. It was Nesk who was able to poke around that corner and take out the smoke, not Sexy Cake. So I apologize there. That's me owning up to my mistakes. A couple things that I noticed that went really wrong for the defense that time around was you had too many in the same spot. Yes, Cyber was there in a potential position to be able to catch the attackers as they came in, but you had both the Jaeger and the Legion situated right outside of that doorway in the bar, and then one right by the actual jukebox. And because of this, they're both basically going to be peeking you from the same angle. It didn't require Sexy Cake to look much farther. Once he was able to take out the Jaeger, he just waited for the Legion to come around that corner. And I mean, maybe a smart play, you get 1 kill there, you think to yourself, all right, nobody else is going to be there, time to leave, and you can jump on that. But in this case, patience from Sexy Cake, he held down that angle and was rewarded with 2 kills.
At least the Legion Mines were well placed. You saw 3 of them fire off in short order. But yeah, him not being there to capitalize on them because of pushing too early and from a bad spot didn't work out. We're going to see this Echo Drone again. Maybe it'll work a little more effectively this time in being able to stop that. Hopefully they won't do any kind of crazy runouts or something silly like that. Now that they have a chance to bring this to overtime, it was very dire match point before. Now they've just got to win 1 round and they can recollect themselves for a second.
And it was MOPA who lost bar the last time they defended it. So they will need to win it this time around, or else we'll head to Consulate.
Hopefully they can pull it off here. I like to see a good overtime on this match. After such a short match last time, it was definitely, this is going a little bit better. Navi's, though, with the first kill and Sexy Cake again, not living too long. It's unfortunate. He's a good fragger, but we're seeing him die too early in too many of these rounds.
It's really unfortunate, but Sexy Cake gone as well, so you managed to pinch one of the roamers, and that's Ella, who Ella is formidable on a lot of sites. I don't think she is particularly necessary.
There's
on
less
bar.
rotates from
There are
these.
a lot less rotates, unless you're going to play Ella upstairs and have her rotate in and out of both cache and master, which is something we've seen happen before, or cache rather and office. But in this case, we won't get to see how Sexy Cake is able to use the Ella, but was upstairs just
That was
outside of
it
master.
was a good place for them to be playing, but losing that fight, now that they have control of it, they can actually use it properly. Yeah, they don't have a buck, but they could still, for example, use the remote breach to open up the floors. Things like that. They could even, for example, use the Candelas down through the floors to hit that Smoke and that Echo who are going to be over by the jukebox.
Right.
So it's a good position for them to be in if they can capitalize on it, and that's going to start that.
Wow, and that was a beautiful shot from one. Misses the first one and doesn't take a single bit of damage from the Bandit of Zeg. Trouble in the water for MOPA here as they stare down the barrel of match point. And still, they do have Bullet, Uke, and Nesk available, who last time around on the site were able to do good work, but Cyber was their kryptonite, and he will start again, this time eliminating the smoke much earlier, 40 seconds, and Bullet on stairs is still working, and anybody who's above him just waiting for that Ash to come down. Once again, a slow peek around the corner and cannot connect. Just bad gun luck at the moment as Nesk looks to try to do as much damage as he can, but he is against a rising tide, and Cyber once again will get the final 3 kills for his team, and BRK takes it 5-3.
Very strong start for them, and a strong finish, but a little bit of losses in the middle there, 2 rounds in a row going to MOPA. Slowly saving it, but not quite enough. Unfortunate for them, as they are definitely now in a bit of a tougher spot, having to fight for their life on the next map.
Right, and I'd imagine that BRK is looking quite vividly at their new roster. Look at Cyber and Navi's, 10 and 10, both former members of Merciless, and that is quite a showing for them.
That's probably a good description of their play that time. And,
No mercy.
Yeah, and I doubted maybe won a little bit on the Glass, but I think he was an effective choice because Cyber was still effective on his roles as well. You saw some of the great flicks by one, and I'm sure we'll see some here.
And take a look at the highlights. And yeah, there were some really great shots. This is when BRK started it off right by just, look at that, all 5 kills in the span of 7 seconds. Was pretty impressive.
Yeah, just some great rounds from all the players here. I mean, yeah, they didn't win, but I feel like both teams had really strong moments. Diogo there with some great plays on that Jaeger, especially just good angle play. That run out, though, was definitely a mistake, as you said. That was a big miscalculation that cost them a round that they really needed. And you saw those desperate Echo moves.
That run out right there could have been the difference between the game too, because if Bullet hadn't ran out and just played it safe, using that Nitro Cell or just being another body to maybe even cover the smoke of Uke as he went to rotate, they could have won that round, and then instead of it being 4-3, it would have been the other way around, and they would have been the ones on match point, or at worst, move into overtime. And this was the round, of course, where Nesk slow peeked around the corner, took out the head of Smoke, and this was Sexy Cake's double, and take a look. He takes one and just waits. All he needs to do is just simply reposition in the same light, just a different angle, and he got it.
And that's why, you know, we talk about Legion having useful ability, and it's definitely not for stopping people right there. We saw, for example, Nesk just pre-fire and pull off. You saw Sexy Cake just keep pushing it. It's great for intel, and it's great for annoying the players a little bit or forcing them back, but you see the damage is just not significant enough to really stop the movement like that. You just, okay, I'll take a few hits from that because it's actually less than a bullet.
Right.
And so I'd rather just throw some bullets at myself than push off.
Yeah, Legion is very interesting in his position, as we see. He seems to thrive very well on sites where you can kind of understand where the push is going to come from. We've said many, many times that for basements where you can control the stairs, Legion is particularly valuable.
Absolutely.
Just, as you said, also for intel gathering, because you can hear a Legion trap break, and you see if your Legion, that little icon disappear, you know where the push is coming from. Not only is it now telegraphed from your opponents, but also you as a defense can now adjust based upon that knowledge and information. And yeah, the goo mines might not do that much damage, but still, I don't know. Latin America keeps trying to make Legion work more than any other region. I don't know if at any point they're going to give up, but at first blush, I guess my assumption would be that it's not really working as well as other operators could.
And I think in the basement, it does have a lot of utility. For example, seeing where they're pushing from, you can throw one in dirt, you can throw one blue right at the bottom of the ladder, for example, and you can throw one in the stairs. And one thing I think we haven't really seen much is trying to use that in combination with, say, a C4, for example. There's the old classic, put a C4 underneath the bottom of the stairs, and then just trigger it when you know they're there. That usually requires a Valkyrie to be able to see that. But if you have a Legion and you place it on the same spot, there's a good chance you go, hey, it triggered, boom, kill. You know, things like that are little tricks you could use with it, but like we said, it's just not a lethal trap.
Now, so we move to Consulate, a map that Latin America plays quite a lot. That will obviously benefit very experienced teams. Both of these teams have rosters that have been around for a while, and even though MOPA has been represented better in LANs than BRK has as players, but not necessarily as an organization, I'm curious to know how this looks, because if these teams are going to be running similar strategies, it is a lot different than Clubhouse. Clubhouse, we actually saw that by and large, BRK was quite good on defense, but also proficient on attack, whereas MOPA was good on attack, but not as great on defending.
Absolutely, and I imagine that'll probably not carry over to Console because it's such a different map. Like we talk about, the defensive sites are so different, and we may or may not see the unorthodox one, as you put it, downstairs in the lobby, because it's a good one.
I'm not allowed to say that anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to say it anymore.
It's an unorthodox thing to say, yeah. I would like to see it because I think it's one that's interesting to watch because, like some of the other maps, top-down control is very important on that. And you see, for example, the fights over Projector Room are always interesting on that because you always got like the smoke behind the table, trying to deny like a Blackbeard or something like that, trying to push in the window. Those are interesting fights to watch because once they get the top control, then you see a little bit of a scramble around the piano room and the bathroom, and those weird bathroom defenses with the mirror windows. I mean, we may or may not see those, but I imagine we'll see both the car garage downstairs as well as the top floor console meeting office.
And we'll take a look now as Consulate is ready. BRK currently leads the series 1-0 over MOPA, and of course, it is a best of 3. So if BRK prevails here, even though it is MOPA's map, if BRK prevails, then that'll be it. And they will go to the finals for Latin America, and they will face off against Lanchonete.
Seeing the first pick of Zofia from the other team this time. Since Sexy Cake did it for BRK, we're seeing it now for MOPA. Or no, I'm sorry, same team. What I'm saying, he's got the Dokkaebi again.
We have both of them. We have both of the White Noise attacking operators. And one thing, when it was so, the only other map that we've casted together, or matchup we casted, was, if I remember correctly, it was Encore versus, I think it was Nox. And we were specifically focusing on Sexy Cake against his previous team. And if you recall, Sexy Cake, they were playing on Chalet, was running Legion every round, and when they started to lag behind, he swapped off and started playing Bandit the moment it stopped working. And I mean, now we'll start the round anew, and he's gone back to Dokkaebi, which I think we can say almost objectively was not very successful last game.
I could see more utility on here because there's going to be more roamers to potentially kill. You got the chance to hack the phones, and the cameras are a lot more useful on this map if you do hack those. That's not a big use, I would say, but it does provide some extra thing you can do besides those phone calls. However, the phone calls may be a lot less effective in this because you're not going to get that tight positioning where you're nearby to hear them because they're all turtled up. So you might catch a roamer or two, and that might be useful. But it's going to be hard to say if it's going to be effective. He probably will play it at least twice, though.
I'd imagine as much. And the SMG-12 is quite a nice weapon. Of course, a lot of people would say that it is superior to the SMG-11. For me, just in terms of gun feel, I much prefer the SMG-11 myself. But it really depends in the hands of, you know, the player themselves. And of course, this is going to be the region that is going to determine that. It's just a shame, I think, for a lot of people that don't like the feel of DMRs, that's Dokkaebi's really only option.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate that it's an only option. I think that's part of the reason we don't see that operator played nearly as much yet.
I do agree with that. If she had a normal like assault rifle or
like
even
Buck
just
is, right? Where Buck has both.
Right. You could do that. Twitch has that as well. Twitch also has a shotgun too. So, though, you know, you're not running the Twitch shotgun unless you're Anthony Pitt. So.
Oh, it's interesting on this map too because it's such spawn peak heaven. How long it takes the particular attackers to get like even to the rappel spots. You saw how much they were watching windows. Even just breaking windows on this when you're controlling top floor can really delay them a long time. And they're taking heavy control of piano here.
Very interestingly, Cyber has actually changed out his reflex for a red dot. I'm not certain why he did that, but he was running a reflex on Clubhouse and now opting for a red dot.
Not likely an accidental choice.
No, that was very deliberate. He also changed the emblem that he had, and right off the bat, Yuke gets the first kill as the Ella of Navis tries to do Ella things, and it gets paid for. Now they'll manage to claim the life of a mirror window as well, just inside a projector, and a bit of disorientation blasts will come out as that lifeline shoots 2 of those similar Gershmop mines. And unbelievable, Cyber just crouch walking his way up the stairs as Nesk is able to get a kill, and that is going to be 2 now for MOPA.
This seems like a pretty strong attack here, that yellow stairs push coordination. The Claymore was great too because you knew you were going to bait out someone to go for the rappel kill, and that's why Claymores really actually are a great thing on this map to have.
And really well timed. There it is. Yeah, you would expect that this will at least help them and aid them in their push, and of course some firing through the floor. And one is just going to let his phone continuously ring as most of the defenders have answered the call. And it will it'll hurt Diogo, because as that phone rings away, could potentially give their position away, and a couple sprays through the floor will at least take one of them down. Diogo will need to be picked up, and that's your smoke. Final 30 seconds as now Nesk eliminates PX, and there's only one member upright, and it is the Valkyrie. And unfortunate we didn't get to see that, as right at the end, Nesk just walks right in and clobbers the Valkyrie sitting by that side wall in Closet.
And a flawless round nonetheless. 5 men still left alive, still standing. We even got to see the phone call. That's the kind of rounds they probably should have been having on last map. Nonetheless, though, that was a great round for them, because you just saw, like I said, the coordination on the attacks. That yellow stairs push to go to the thermite at the top, just well played. And I feel like they forced them to turtle up maybe more than they wanted to inside console offs. You saw the Valkyrie and the smoke playing inside there. They didn't need 2 people, but unfortunate for them, the smoke got downed, and that left them in a situation where, like, Valkyrie's like, I can't even get out of here at this point.
No, and therein lies the power of those phone calls, and I don't think it's coincidence whatsoever.
Yeah.
It did not look like there was a drone upstairs. Obviously there could have been that we just couldn't see, but it did not look like there was a drone up top in the console office. And because of that, when the phone started to ring, they were positioned underneath in piano and just started firing through the floors using the intel that came with those phone calls ringing away. And Diogo, who had actually stopped his phone call, ended up paying for it because one didn't stop his. And then it was just the Valkyrie was going to need to. I don't actually know why the Valkyrie didn't rotate in to pick up one or pick up Diogo.
That might have made a difference, because
I think it could have made a big difference. Absolutely. They didn't have time, and that wall had not been opened up just yet. So, but one ends up. One just being idle ends up costing his team, and it looks like we're going for a spawn peek
The
from
Vigil
Sexy
spawn
Cake.
peek, never a brilliant idea. You're not invisible to the spawners.
But they do see it. It looked like it's Navi's who's actually engaging him. It looked like it was the Twitch. He'll get a couple shots and break the glass as Sexy Cake will peel off. He's got a lot of open windows here, and those Valkyrie cams will do him some favors, as you could hear one of them got shot out, and that was the one right by the front door.
We've got our first dock as well from Nesk. Interesting choice maybe for the ACOG, as we were talking about earlier, to have some more long line of sights, because there are a lot more on this map, being so spread out, so horizontal as well as vertical. But it's a situation of, like, he needs to stay a little close to teammates if he wants to get utility as well, and not just pick Rook. Because if you're not going to be near your teammates, you pick the Rook, you throw down the armor, they can all get armored up, and then you don't have to be near anyone anymore. You can go on a roam. But in this situation, Nesk is going to be potentially vital if they start making some progress.
Rook has a number of benefits, and the other thing, too, is that just because of his character model, the way he moves, his design, he's very difficult to headshot.
Yeah.
And because of that, with Doc, who has a little bit less of that padding, he doesn't quite have the same bulletproof collar around his neck, and his headgear is bright white for the most part. Makes it a lot easier for them to be able to track them down. And in a game where one headshot is an instant kill, that can be invaluable. And if Doc gets headshotted, well, you lose all those stim packs, but the armor will persist even if Rook manages to get taken down.
On the upside, though, if you do get downed, you have a chance to be able to potentially pick yourself back up if they can't finish it.
Right.
But nonetheless, the attackers are starting to get in and actually get map control here, so this is a good start for BRK to try and bring this back after that first round loss, which was just, again, the first round. And they're attacking a different bomb site, the one downstairs. Cyber already on the first kill.
It's a Valkyrie, and a headshot there as Yuke will trade it back, and now Nesk joins in and PX goes down. They managed to get both panels before the thermite perishes. Now, both of your hard breachers are gone, but I think you could argue that their jobs are still done, as Sexy Cake eliminates Diogo with a headshot himself, and that'll leave Navi's and one left. And already we are seeing a different MOPA team than we saw on Clubhouse, and I mean, it stands to reason this is MOPA's map.
Yeah, like I said, I feel like it was a big map thing for them on Clubhouse. And unfortunate, but, you know, if they somehow come out ahead, they're going to need to work on that for Invitationals. But the Claymores are working overtime on this map so far. Those greedy runouts being punished, and Navi's punishing Yuke.
And now he's taking control of that Mira as well. The Buck is a little bit farther off-site just by the cafeteria in A. Now, also keep in mind that neither of them hold the diffuser as it is outside, so they will need to go frag hunting over the next 30 seconds. Team deathmatch, unless one of them can get there in time. But it doesn't look like either of them are in any particular hurry. It, of course, could be a march to your death. Navi's will assess the hatch above, and one cooks a final grenade. Spotted on camera as the Doc and Ella are positioned to try and take a kill, but look at that. Navi sprints around the corner, but Nesk is prepared for it as Bullet manages to jump in as well and takes out one pretty routinely, as that's exactly what Ella does. And
That
look
was
at that.
a good combo of 2 operators left. You had the 3-speed fast attacker, defender, and then you had the tank defender as well playing the other side. It was just a 1-2 combo that was going to be really hard. They needed to probably take out the fast one first, and then 2 on the tank dock. And that might have worked, but it was a situation where they both had good positioning, and you saw them wasting time on things like the Valkyrie cameras. That cost them. They didn't have spare time. They, you already spotted. What was the point of shooting it at that point, really?
Right.
Because otherwise, if someone was watching you on the approach, that means someone's not able to shoot you. So you actually, you're not at a huge disadvantage there. So that was, hindsight's 20/20.
They also had 3 dead that could have been watching those cameras.
Absolutely, that's true.
But the intel that they were able to gather off of that one Valkyrie cam, you saw that it was the doc actually pivoted. I believe it was Yuke was playing the doc. He pivoted and went prone at the side of White Van and looked towards the direction that Navi's was coming from, and that was the Valkyrie cam that was able to give them that intel. So proving to be quite valuable in the stretch, and it's currently the Nesk and Yuke show as they hold 8 of the 10 kills
Reminds
for
me of some previous
MOPA.
seasons.
It sure does, and those are both fantastic players. You think Nesk and Yuke and the way that they play together, very similar to Astro and Gohan as well on Font.
Yeah, another dynamic duo that's always nice to see. It's good to see when they find their stride like that and find good combos between players that work well together. Hopefully BRK can find that on here. Interesting to see them playing the Pulse this time to be able to potentially play from downstairs and deny a plant. That's an older strategy that we used to see a lot when vertical play first started kind of being introduced to this map. And it works great, though, because there's very few spots you could safely plant, and we've seen some great final rounds in the past where that comes down to that.
Yeah. They bring another Zofia, but this time on Nesk and Sexy Cake playing the buck. So I like that we are seeing some changes on the fly with what operators they have. And of course, this is a very flexible roster. When they dropped 1 and picked up Sexy Cake, they didn't necessarily replace the same roles. 1 we've been seeing now has been playing a lot of roamers, but previously he was employed as an anchor and support player for most of the last season of Latin America. He has taken a more aggressive role on BRK so far, and Sexy Cake has not really been playing an anchor that much.
I guess 1's going to change it up when he changes up 4 of his teammates as well.
That's
probably factors in.
Absolutely. When you do bring a new roster, and of course there are roster swaps. I mean, hey, we even saw teams, we saw Elevate swapping rosters a little bit. We saw as well EG was kind of swapping rosters around a little bit last season too, or at least swapping roles, and Most Wanted as they were known as too in North America specifically. So not too much of a surprise to see teams make that adaptation on the fly. But with that said, MOPA up 2-0. We hit the halfway mark of round number 3, and they're just starting to encroach on the site right now. They've managed to take complete eastern control of Consulate, and will start their assault on Projector.
It's a good admin push here, and I'm surprised to see them get so many people in there without being tested. And sometimes that works, but it almost ends up being more of a retake strategy because you have to kind of pull them in a little bit and then flank them from the sides. But a situation where they're kind of stacking up a bit, maybe a C4 from Pulse could get up, but a grenade doing just as well from the attackers.
It was a nice toss on top of Visa stairs. They know that they've got 1 trapped inside a spiral, but the key for them is going to be to not commit too many bodies to that. Now, it does look like Nesk is going to go from below, but Cyber manages to win that gun duel and does so quite effectively. Now, the Zofia was the one coming up on the flank for the attackers. That will, I guess, make sure that there is a veritable miasma congregating inside of admin, and I was, I had to get that reference in there.
Yeah, no, totally. It's going to be a big outpouring here for sure.
Yeah, of
at
course.
This desk. That desk itself is going to be pointing attention. Attackers should have the advantage. They have the ACOGs, and one of the defenders having it, and there goes someone with the Vector. Take it down quickly.
Sexy Cake's Invisa Rifle taking out PX, and now Zig, as it just simply looks like BRK, for the moment, is a little outclassed on Consulate. But Cyber doing a good job will get kill number 2, and with 1 eliminated, it's going to be all up to the Jaeger of Cyber. He's got both kills so far. Make that all 3 kills, but the diffuser being down, and with Disoriented Buck, Cyber a 4K, can he hold this out? All he needs is bullet. Cyber with the ace. What a big round for the Jaeger, and unbelievable BRK as he hits the Claymore right there at the end.
I feel like they underestimated him towards the end there. And he was the guy who was getting the kills earlier, as you said, an ace. So he was not the one to underestimate at that point because he's going from strength to strength. And they just were all individually approaching him. I mean, he had good timing with the buck, let's be honest. That could have gone either way because he was looking the wrong direction at first. But it was just, you saw him, you talked about him using the red dot and stuff like that, and just some nice shots. The yellow stairs shot especially as well was just great timing. He happened to look right just before he peeked up, and just good reflexes on his part because that could have easily gone either way.
it was a 3v1
Yeah.
that we were thinking, okay, well, BRK has probably lost this one. Regroup,
Unfortunate.
you'll get them next round. And
Yeah.
absolutely not the case, making us eat our words, or rather me in this case, eat our words. Now, I would call this site unconventional, but I don't any longer. They'll go to the main floor for MOPA, and teams need to be prepared to attack this site, as is any other site on Consulate.
Yeah.
Used a lot more in previous seasons. We haven't seen a lot of it recently, especially as Latin America teams don't always like to take this site, but MOPA's going to give it a whirl.
I feel like maybe they don't do as much of the vertical play, and so it doesn't work as well for them, because we see them a lot more horizontal gunfights than I think NA's turn to, for example.
Right.
So it's a situation where, yeah, they're at a disadvantage than playing this because they're not playing it the same way. But it'll be interesting to see, for example, if this Vigil comes into play. For example, as I've talked about last night, the fact that he affects multiple floors can trick you out. So I can see him playing in the basement, but instead he wants to play upstairs. Either way, though, you're not going to necessarily know where he's exactly positioned because all 3 floors are viable to play on. But we are seeing our first Capital, and so I'm not sure if that was the right pick or not, because they don't, maybe not have known which bomb spot it was going to be. That might have been a strat for a different site.
This composition to me makes it seem like they expected them to go upstairs, but
Yeah.
because they did win the basement, MOPA had to go to one of the other 2 sites. This is one that is situated very well for the second floor, but the main floor and the second floor do typically play out very similarly. The crux is going to be to take control up top, and once you can establish that control primarily inside a projector, then you can start to work on pinching all of the defenders on the main floor, and I think that's what their focus is going to be, as they have 2 situated right now on the windows by console office.
I think this is the big difference, though, in the attack, is that this room is easier to take if it's
Right.
not the bomb site up here, because that room being the bomb site is a lot more heavily defended. In this case, they probably could already go in and may even know that because they were doing some droning.
The Valkyrie
saw
cam
that,
just
yeah.
staring right at PX, and he misses it. Navi's comes in and gets shot at through the hole inside, and he saw the hole in the wall of Closet,
Well
but
played.
decided to still go there anyway, and Ness will immediately go onto that Valk camera that is outside that no member of BRK managed to spot, and this does, whether they're winning or they're losing, this does not look like the same confidence in BRK that we saw in Clubhouse, or on Clubhouse rather.
Like I said, they could have even gone into console, the room already, and they finally did, but they didn't even like scout it properly to see that hole.
Right.
And that's not a new idea, placing the hole on the bottom there and using the yellow stairs, but they did push from the yellow stairs at the same time. But then again, this is the first time they're attacking this bomb site. If they have to do it in the future, they may be a little more well adapted.
Some Candelas will go off. The Bandit playing up top in Projector will manage to scoot away from the shots from Cyber's R4C. Now, usually you would likely have a smoke playing up there, or at least somebody with a Nitro Cell that you can drop through. I don't know if the Bandit is equipped with a Nitro Cell. It seems like we are seeing more C4 on Bandit as of late, especially after the changes itself to the Razor Wire. And look at that, Diogo's going to Candela and just run right in. He has total sight control, eliminates Sexy Cake before Nesk is there to catch his teammate, and in a 1-for-1 we'll trade him off as Nesk gets a 3rd kill. It's a big round from him, as that's 3 every single kill for the Valkyrie. Ella peeks around the corner, 1 cannot connect. Diffuser manages to go down, and Zig and Yuke jump in and make sure that it's not Nesk having all the fun, but they eliminate every single member of the attack, and they'll get that diffuser relatively easily. MOPA goes up 3-1.
I think it's very clear that they were not as well prepared to attack the bomb site. Maybe just the operator choices, but also it just seemed like they couldn't find their entry point. You saw them fighting over the front door right there. You saw them trying to fight over a console. Nesk was doing just a great job denying everywhere. You know, you see him killing the people from the yellow stairs and then just going, okay, now I'll go defend the other site. And that flexibility from Nesk there really cost BRK. And now they're going to be on the same position we saw from MOPA last map, where they're down in the 3-1 situation. If we see it 4-1, then it's like, well, we see the same kind of comeback. But either way, if they continue to strengthen, we will see map number 3.
They'll go downstairs in Garage, and Dokkaebi can be used, or Dokkaebi rather, can be used in a very interesting way here. Now, you assume that you're going to have one playing off of pipes, maybe one playing off of yellow. Maybe that yellow might also rotate to white van. You're likely going to have somebody inside of that little office that PX is currently in.
He'll probably stay there.
So you know that there's likely going to be people in those spots. So in this case, Dokkaebi or Dokaibi, whose name is probably the trickiest to pronounce, you're likely going to use her to probably try and pinch the roamers. So I would expect that you see those phone calls used early in conjunction with the roam clear of MOPA. I could be wrong, but once you manage to find out where those roamers are, your assault on the actual sites becomes a lot easier because on the basement of console, there's only so many places that you can get sufficient cover.
And that also goes in conjunction with opening that garage door, something that the Thermite needs to do. They have a Thatcher, which is always a great thing to have when you want conjunction with that, as well as Hibana. So they've got a lot of utility for opening that door, provided they successfully do it. And then you talk about the phone calls. If they can combine those two things and take out the roamers, I think, yeah, they have a great possibility to attack this and take it to match point.
This is a really good set of operators as well for the basement. Yes, I'll echo what you said. You've got the Hibana who can do the breachability up top. Thatcher and Thermite are obviously going to be the loving duo on that garage wall. And then you've got Zofia who can rain from above too. Don't underestimate the fact that she's able to use those mines from her launcher and shoot them down through holes open up in the floor by her rifle.
I would say even in conjunction with that, oh, this is a nice kill from Cyber, taking down the Hibana already. But I would say the Zofia being able to launch over top of the white van as well, because you see a lot of people playing behind it, I think is a big factor because you can stun them, push, and go for the plant.
Now, he did take down the Hibana of Yuk, which is some raw fragging potential that's gone, as well as the inability to open up hatches upstairs. You do not absolutely need those hatches because you can potentially blow them open or at least shoot open some of the floors with rifles if you have any breaching charges or anything along those lines. But Zofia is going to use her gadgets to take out the barbed wire on yellow stairs, and now Sexy Cake up top is going to work his way down to join the rest of his team. So he has successfully basically face-checked the entire second floor to make sure there's nobody up there, and the only one who was up there at one point was Cyber, who got eliminated after taking out you.
Yeah, good roam clear. Now imagine Navi's being able to take advantage of that 3-speed on site. Could get pinched out if they're able to push from a different side, but it doesn't seem like they want to push from the cafeteria side just yet, which could cost them here. However, at least they've got some good angles set up and the garage door open.
They see another rotate just behind white as they look to see if there's anybody by pillar, but nope, not at the moment. It does actually look like Navi's is on site, so you have the Ella sticking pretty closely nearby. A phone is available to be picked up by Sexy Cake if need be, but in this case, he's simply waiting. No, it actually looks like the Ella is upstairs in Visa, so it was the Valkyrie that was sitting down on site and poised to strike inside of Visa. The Mira is going to try to repel that push. This has taken them far, far too long to try and open up this garage all the way, and they're stalled quite badly. But look at that. Navi's was coming in on the flank, and Sexy Cake was there, and the second logic bomb is now going to go out. So they'll instead use it to try and figure out the locations of the anchors and site players. As they push inside, Zig and Nesk able to eliminate Diogo and one, and it's PX against the world. He is able to take down Nesk and primes a C4, but nothing with it as it looks like it clips the ceiling. Diffuser goes off in front of that white van, and his job has just become a lot more difficult. There isn't much left of Zig. So it's technically going to be a 2v1 in terms of health, but keep in mind we've seen a lot of operators with very little HP still able to get that frag, because even if you've got 1 HP, a headshot is still a headshot. He'll get pre-fired as he crawls his way out of the hole inside a cafeteria and pushes into the back of garage. There is a flank watch currently from Sexy Cake, but that Vector isn't going to have the same amount of distance as he is staring down the barrel with a hollow against a bunch of ACOGs. Bleeding out time here. The timer will just now hit it. He's not able to defuse, but Sexy Cake gets the kill anyway, and MOPA takes that round and will push us to match point. This has been quite decisive so far, 4-1.
Yeah, and that was a situation where, like you said, there was, maybe not a lot of time left, but I think taking down the 2 roamers is what ultimately enabled them to actually make that solid push at the end. Because, they spent a lot of time opening the door and doing that, but taking down the Ella was basically exactly what they needed to do, then go for the push, and you saw them just decimate them after that. PX was in such a bad spot, too, because you have to realize once that diffuser's down, like you saw, with 3 people left alive, doesn't matter how much health you have. If you're just covering each other, it's nigh impossible to get that because of the open garage, because, like you said, the ACOGs, the long angles, you're going to have to hit potentially 3 quick flick Vector shots in a row just to be able to get to that diffuser unless you can somehow long arm it. It's just a bad spot to be in, and I feel for PX in that situation. Didn't want to give it up, even though you saw his the frame of his sight potentially covering up someone pushing on him on the white van. Just it's such a desperate situation to be in.
The Vector is a very formidable firearm at close range and in short bursts, but very similar to when Smoke is running the SMG-11. it's you run out of ammo very quickly, and you can't reload in time to stop a second push. And in a situation like that, look at Nesk with 10 frags.
No, look at Cyber.
The only reason right now why BRK did not get 5-0'd, of course, the Hibana top fragging for them, and actually competing with Nesk for most overall frags at the moment. But you're situated in such a way, if I can go back to what happened last round, with where Thatcher and Thermite are, that it's almost assuredly going to be a trade. So you might be able to get one with the Vector. It doesn't even matter if you run out of ammo. It's simply, at that point, a game of fire rate versus recoil control against 2 ACOGs that are positioned to try and take advantage of, you know, the fact that they know where you're going to be coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see if they can successfully attack this garage to try and stay in this. But so far, it just hasn't been looking like that, and it's really going to come down to the rest of the team stepping up to Cyber's level here. Otherwise, there's going to be, I mean, a lot of those Cyber points, to be fair, were from one round where he aced. But this is just, that was the only round they won, right? So when you said he was the only reason they didn't get 5-0, that was very literally true. And Navi's already getting in a gunfight here. Just trying to take admin is not a good start for the attack, because they should be able to take this top floor with a lot more ease than that. Didn't lose a ton of health, but still, they know he's in there now.
We've seen Navi's do this on Clubhouse, as well as one previous round on Consulate, where he storms in and basically just tries to, he doesn't even drone in. He just rushes right in, and I think hopes for the best with that 3-speed and ACOG on Ash, which, you know, is not a terrible idea. However, you find yourself in a situation where if it falls apart, then it falls apart. And we apologize here. Don't know what exactly is going on with the audio. It sounds like a broken drone, as it has completely taken over. We're hearing it and you're hearing it, but we'll fight through it on what could be our final round. Navi's manages to miss the head of Bullet as he looks long down west corridor into console office. Cyber takes out Bullet, traded off as Sexy Cake eliminates Cyber, so that is very much an even trade to put us back at 4-4, and now Sexy Cake is going to come in and get healed up. So we'll get the sound back at the end of the round, but for the time being, we're going to have to just go through with our lovely voices. So hopefully you haven't muted us, or I mean, I guess technically if you have muted us, you'd just be hearing the same thing that you're hearing right now.
So it was nice that they had Nesk on that dock again. We saw some good play from that last time, and now being able to heal the people that came back to site made the roam that much more effective. Yeah, they lost Bullet on the roam, but they've been so strong on the rest of their players, and then taking out Cyber early was absolutely worth the trade in losing Bullet there, because Bullet is not nearly as critical as Cyber's been for that team. Yeah, they're getting the garage door open. They only got a minute left, and they haven't been able to push a lot of map control on the rest of the map, so they're going to be fighting this from outside. This is where Navis needs to get around, potentially to the back of Cafeteria down the spiral stairs, put some pressure on them. If he doesn't, it's going to be 3 people just trying to fire into one hole.
Right, and they didn't even open up 2 panels, which is problematic for them. Sexy Cake is going to clean up on Navi's, and they had engaged earlier on upstairs on the 2nd floor, and Navi's was able to escape. So was Sexy Cake, and Ness getting overhealed. It looks like they will finally get the 2nd panel, as we only have 20 seconds left in round number 6. So they have done a good job of opening that garage up. Somehow, Zig remarkably survives those shots from one's DMR. That Glass is not able to claim another victim, though he will get Uke before Diogo gets eliminated by Nesk. And look at that, a beautiful double play from Zig, simply getting one by means of firearm and the other with a bit of an explosive ending to this. And MOPA looking very, very good. 5-1 for them on their map choice.
Interesting to see like them looking maybe so weak on Clubhouse. I mean, they had a 2-round comeback, but that was it. And we're thinking, okay, maybe MOPA doesn't have this, but maps matter so much in this, because you see that turn around into a 5-1 where they come on even stronger than BRK did. Now, we mentioned earlier a lot of the change-ups between the players. These players know each other in the sense that one has some inside knowledge onto how the other players play. He might not know their current strats. That's the thing, is like teams are going to change up the strats, they're going to change up what they do, but nonetheless, he knows them.
Right. And we'll see exactly what happened in our matchup here. Now, another thing to keep in mind was it was a bad start for MOPA, too. They went down 4-1 on Clubhouse and played better from that round on. And then, of course, you saw on Consulate, it could just be that maybe they were cold and coming into this, they needed to warm up, and here they are.
Well, hopefully this means that we're going to see an overtime in Oregon from both these teams getting their stride. Maybe it could carry the momentum to the next map, but we saw momentum didn't matter on this map.
No, not at all. Cyber Ace was beautiful, to say the least, but that was not enough, unfortunately. So in a situation where one man cannot carry the entire team, and Oregon is going to be up next for us. Now, they are restarting just because of those sound that's a weird sound glitch that happens with drones from time to time, so it will just be a moment until we can get everybody back in that lobby. Let's talk about Oregon. The basement of Oregon can play out somewhat similarly to Clubhouse. You can comfortably fit 4 defenders on site and have 1 potentially roam inside a meeting or even inside of kitchen. Or we've seen teams go for a roam and then bring all 5 back on site, which might not be the wisest idea, but it's something that they've been able to do. So with teams like this, I have no doubt that it's going to be a much closer match than we've seen out of the other 2. And yes, overtime is probably likely, I would say.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if both teams, for example, have really good laundry attacks and then force them to defend on other spots, it could go a little more tit for tat. But it's a case of who has probably a stronger attack on that site, because we know that becomes chaos for Latin America. They end up planting all over the place just because trying to push into that laundry room is such a big deal. But that's one where we've seen Zig dominate with what I like to jokingly call his pulse staircase strategy, where he just hides in that little laundry cubby, waits for everyone to be on the stairs, and just rushes them. They've got to anticipate that by now. I can't see that working as well as it used to, and that was such a linchpin of their defense down there, because these are the kind of teams that would actually go smokeless sometimes in defending the laundry and would just straight up throw C4s. So we may see Mira being a big factor on those plays as well as those Zig plays from that pulse. Whereas the top floor, as you said, can be a little more retake friendly as well, and it's not as much about having a solid front, because there's attack vectors from 2 different windows. There's some staircases you have to deal with, as well as armory hallway. There's a lot more points where retakes actually make more sense when you can get crossfired so easily.
Absolutely. And for the defense, smokeless strats were more prevalent until Ying came around. You remember how oppressive that Ying strat was on Oregon. We saw it ad nauseum. It was the same thing. Open that hatch, make sure meeting was clear, dump some smokes in, dump some candelas in, drop plant behind the laundry basket, not on top of the laundry machine itself. And it worked almost every single time. And we saw at the start of last season, not a lot of teams were running smokes. And it was very confusing because that's such a perfect counter. You might not be able to see through the smoke yourself, but you can answer their smoke with your own. And the difference is that when they breathe yours in, they end up dying on that 7-second timer. So it'll be very curious to see. I expect that the defense will probably do very well in the basement of Oregon. I wouldn't be too surprised if we saw the attackers prevailing there. But the big thing for me is when we go upstairs, as we inevitably will if the defense wins downstairs, how they're going to do in kids' bedrooms and dorms.
Yeah, and that could come down to some of the stuff you're talking about as well, with defenses on other areas. For example, kitchen and the meeting hall. Kitchen doesn't necessarily sound like it's useful as much for the upstairs as it is for the downstairs, but it really becomes being able to stop the play from underneath, for example, helping secure that B side in that bedroom. But it really varies how it's played, more so than the laundry, like we were just talking about. I could see BRK doing that Ying strategy still, just because we saw them trying to do that on Arsenal. On Clubhouse, so we know that they are at least familiar with playing that way. But it's just a question of whether or not they think that's viable. As you said, there's a lot of counters to it as well. It comes down to timing and positioning. Also, missed smoke throws, for example, when you're going for that little laundry basket corner. All kinds of counterplays to that. But I imagine we'll see a lot more roaming on this than we did with Clubhouse. And I think sometimes we've seen with some of these, especially a gunfight-heavy region such as Latin America, roaming can really factor in because that is a big part of strategy on this particular map.
Right, and one of the things about Oregon is we see a lot of Oregon. It is probably one of the most well-balanced and most played maps that every team seems to have a strategy for in some way, shape, or form. But the thing that I like the most about it is not only do they have 2 sites that are quite easily defensible, and I think there are some teams that actually much prefer to go upstairs in kids' dorms than go downstairs.
It's trended that way.
But at the same time, there's such a wide breadth of strategies that you can use on both sites. Yes, you're almost always going to bring a Miro when you go up top. Same stands to reason for downstairs. We can speculate all day, but why don't we actually take a look at how these teams are going to play, as we are now ready to load into Oregon as our tiebreaker between BRK and MOPA. They're all tied up at 1 apiece in the Rainbow Six Latin America 6 Invitational playoffs.
It's a mouthful. But it seems like a very appropriate decider. Based off how things have gone so far and how it is with these teams, I think this is the perfect way to end this decider to help decide who might potentially be making it to invitationals, because this is going to be played at invitationals.
Oh, absolutely.
To say the least.
We see this map everywhere, and for good reason. I know people might get sick of it, but I honestly am excited whenever we watch Oregon rather, similar to Borders, because there's just so many different things that they can do.
For BRK, 2 bomb sites, right?
Right, exactly, and there's even 3 bomb sites. We've seen customs Customs and supply room have been defended on Border 2 by a number of teams.
I want to to see teams crack kitchen on this.
I
want to see that happen.
I want to see a rear tower. I
The
wanna see
rear-
a tower
the
and
tower.
rear stage.
You know, we did
So-
see Zig with an amazing clutch on that one time when it was played. We saw him
Right.
go around and just rotate around and get a beautiful kill. That was the best defensive tower we've seen, was by Zig, so it is a possibility.
They could bring
from
it
this
back
team.
out.
Yeah, MOPA could pull it out. So we'll hopefully anticipate that there. There's the mirrors that you're talking about on that defense upstairs. We're seeing our first Jackal, I think. I believe that's the first one from these teams here.
Yes.
Interesting one. As I said, the roam play is so important in this. Much like Bank, it is a good counter to those roamers potentially, although it is kind of dangerously close to face checking versus the drones. However, Vigil is in play now, so you could potentially catch him with the footprints when you can't catch him with the drone.
Right, and take a look. They have opted to go upstairs rather than downstairs. A smart plan, and really this composition is going to work on both. I would say that it's probably better optimized to go downstairs. You have the Twitch to take care of where you are going to have inside of Closet that Mira being played, but of course, with them being upstairs, the Twitch is going to need to do the work up top. Now, it can be a little bit more difficult for certain teams to be able to get that Twitch drone up there without it being taken away from them, i.e. being shot at by the defense. But overall composition for the attackers, I would feel more comfortable running that attacking the basement, but I'm sure they'll still make it work. Usually smokes are brought in some capacity when attacking the second floor, and that's something they do not have right now available to them, other than if Jackal brought it, which I'd imagine they probably did.
Yeah, and unfortunate for the defenders, they didn't spread out enough here and gave up way too much map control, and just letting them take over that entire side is a big mistake. I mean, I like that they used the Hibana to open up that reinforced wall, which they'd set up to kind of slow it down. But they just said, that's fine, we'll just open it up. Now we'll get a line of sight to the bottom of White Stairs, stop you rotate, and make it easier for us to play Bathroom. And they're doing that. And then Cyber, though, deciding, you know, we'll make it even easier for you
Oh, no.
by killing PX.
And that's the Mira down. Hopefully both of those Miras went out. They'll open up the floor, and a lot of vertical pressure being applied as MOPA looking to storm in. Cyber, the MVP for BRK last game, currently the MVP at the moment for MOPA right now. They'll take some of the barbed wire out on White Stairs as a bit of an easier move in. Now that Mira that would be guarding that has Navi's there instead. That's also a C4 that they don't have access to as the Mira goes down. And now Cyber pays for his misdeeds with his life. Down goes the Jaeger.
Unfortunately, this round seems to be a bit thrown just by the defensive strategy combined with the team kill. Diogo and Run getting good kills, though, at least on the attackers.
Diogo was a really nice jiggle peek, or rather just standard quick lean peek around that corner. And it was a bit delayed, but still able to get it. He is inside of Attic, looking at that rotate hold. The Jackal is on the other side, goes for a C4. Jackal pulls back, doesn't take a single lick of damage, but both One and Diogo have lost some of their life.
I like this positioning by One here, working with Diogo to pretty much pinch him out because he's going to be focused on Diogo, and he's got a great opportunity to kill Jackal, and he does.
That's an interesting spot for a smoke to be, but Zig eliminating Navi's means that we're back to a 2v2. The Bearing 9 pulled out by the Hibana as Sexy Cake will try to cut off the rotate. A smart way to do. Valkyrie comes around the corner, but Diogo proves to be a good shot on a Valcam. Diogo, 3 kills this round, and that will be integral to BRK stealing a round away. That looked like it was going in favor of MOPA, and they are 4 rounds potentially away from going to the finals.
Diogo
Latin
and One.
America.
Definitely a great round from them. They absolutely held that together in a dire situation. It was looking bad for them. I mean, they lost people, they team killed. Usually that tilt scenes pretty quickly as well, and especially in the first round of a map. But they really pulled it back. I gotta give a lot of credit to Diogo, holding in a tight position right there, just holding and letting his teammate come around to help him out was a very smart play. Not sure if they'll be able to continue that after, again, they got to be tilted a little bit after that. But nonetheless, that's got to feel good winning that. Maybe they forgive him for the team kill now.
And take a look. We talk about the way that composition works now. No site is locked. Originally, it looked like BRK was going to be going down to the basement. At the last second, they changed to go upstairs. But with the way that MOPA rather, with the way that BRK's composition is structured, you have a glass and a Capitao, which can be very effective up on that big window, looking inside of dorms. Now, don't get me wrong. This can work for downstairs too, but I like what we're going to see when they go up top.
Yeah, I think that composition, in terms of smokes and things like that, works really well for both sites because we know the utility of the smokes and glass on the downstairs as well as Capitao for the little closet. And like you said, upstairs as well for that B site especially, both those operators are very useful in those attacks. And I think it's a good all-around lineup. Like you were talking about the last attacker lineup as well. One of the nice things about this map is you're not going to get too thrown off by which bomb site's being played because there's so many viable lineups that work for both. But we'll see if one can do as well. Like we were talking about earlier, Cyber as a Glass player on this map especially was fantastic at it, but we've seen one do a fantastic job as well, although he seems to have a little more trouble hitting the 3 speeds who are able to juke around a little bit more.
Yeah, one, not as much consistency on that Glass as we
Yeah.
could need. He's had some really good rounds, some banner rounds rather, but others that have been a little lackluster. And 30 seconds in, round number 2 on map number 3. No matter which team wins this one, we will know exactly how this series is going to end. And a little bit of patience from BRK as they look to try to maybe clear out the western side of Oregon. Cyber assumes that there is one inside a bathroom. There is.
There's a lot of defense upstairs for being a downstairs defense. They're really trying to play it, and that could either work in their favor or really against them.
You mean an upstairs defense.
I'm sorry, yeah, an upstairs defense.
That's
Because they were going to go downstairs originally.
Yeah. It caught me off guard too. Don't worry, it's okay. But
We'll
anyway,
see if it's okay for them.
The only thing that catches me off guard with this is that because we don't speak Portuguese, sometimes you can look at the names and be like, I don't know where that is. But you know,
Clubhouse always throws me off.
Clubhouse does. I know that Bank originally I got tossed off with as well. So and Border Armory is pretty easy to tell, but I digress. Halfway through round number 2 now, 90 seconds have been exhausted, and Navi still trying to get his Twitch drone in place to try and take care of that Mira of Uke, and a lot of patience from these teams. Gets in, but he loses his drone right as soon as it looked like it was about to prey upon that hapless Mira window, so it will persist for the time being. And he looks down the western corridor to try and see who is there, but there's nobody willing to peek. Now holding that ladder flank inside of Attic as the rest of the team looks set to push in through master bedroom, and you of course have Glaz watching that big window for the head to peek around the corner of White Stairs towards the bomb.
Good bait out of that smoke, and I like the Claymore placement as well to try and stop them from rotating up their meeting hall. This methodicalness paying off as Novi's gets killed and the Cyber follows it up.
Sexy Cake was downed as well, and now Diogo adds to it, and BRK getting in all in the action, but Nesk comes up from behind, manages to take out Cyber, but PX and Navi's holding the top of White Stairs proved to be too formidable. BRK now taking round number 2, and they're up 2-0.
I just felt like from a team that we usually see being, or some of these teams being a little more frag happy, that was a nice, slow, methodical round for BRK. You saw them checking everywhere, clearing it, pushing, covering for each other, using their utility as well. Unfortunate that he wasn't able to pop that window with his Twitch thing, but I think might have been able to pop it with Haban as well. We didn't get to see where those X-Kairos were being used, but nonetheless, it was just good teamwork and slow-paced, controlled gameplay. A good makeup for the previous defense as well, although that did get saved in the end.
We'll see our first basement defense. Of course, they have to go there as BRK was successful upstairs, or rather, just simply can't go to the second floor because we could have seen a less conventional strategy. Maybe they could have gone into kitchen, maybe they could have gone to tower/rear stage, but I like the positioning that we saw from BRK there. They had one posted up, looking through big windows so that he could catch the smoke or whomever was playing on the top of White Stairs, if it wasn't the smoke, the moment that he pushed out. Now you're putting a lot of faith in landing that shot, but as Sexy Cake moved in to get that one smoke down in the closet, he exposed himself long enough to get dropped by the Glaz and then followed up with the rest of the team. That also allowed the 2 roamers, or that rather allowed them to push onto the site, the attackers, because the 2 roamers were too far off to make much use of it. So all they needed to do was sprint right into Kid Storms, and the Mira was completely helpless. She got taken out, and next thing you know now have full control of that site, and the 2 roamers that were trying to come back into sight, very easy just to catch them.
Yeah, overall, just really well played in terms of that attack. Maybe not work the second time, but they were showing patience and control, and that means they'll also have some flexibility on that attack when they go to do it again. We'll see, though, how the basement works out, if they're able to defend it as well. This is going to be interesting because they're playing fairly conventional defending operators, nothing too crazy. But they do have the smoke, something I was saying, like, sometimes they go a little more C4 heavy, but they do have the smoke. But we've also seen some of these players with the smoke, they'll have them upstairs instead, trying to defend up there, which is unconventional to say the least, but then instead they have Navi's upstairs doing just fine. Unfortunately, though, bullet dropping, not going to be great for this attack.
That is tough luck, as it likely won't be a rehost, or no, surprising because typically you play the round out, I guess. They're
This
all
is a pretty important match, though, so
yeah,
maybe give them the opportunity.
It could. Oh, welcome back. Hi, nice to see you. So I guess we are going to re-host. Typically, we would let the round play out, but I guess in this case, it is an important match, so we will re-host instead. Now, a couple things of note there that I thought were very interesting with playing a smoke upstairs is that you typically would find that you either have the Mira or even an Echo that's situated downstairs, so you still have that anchor on site. You'll have a smoke maybe up top playing on a kid's dorms with a Mira window, and then of course you can't take adequate control of the second floor because of the fact that there's a smoke up there, and that requires a lot of time and work to flush him out because you obviously don't want to push the smoke. He has area denial, not just with those toxic babes, but also a pretty powerful shotgun and a great sidearm.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a situation where, like, it doesn't sound that effective. Yeah, you're just denying one room, right? But top floor control on that particular attack is very important because when you're attacking the basement, you have to be very focused, right? Because you need a lot of coverage down on that laundry. You need people to watch different angles. Because of that hyper focus, you can't leave a roamer up there. Some maps, maybe you can get away with it. You know, I'll leave them be.
Bank.
Yeah.
Bank is a map. We've seen them ignore roamers. We've seen the same with Border before.
Yep.
Ents famously ignored roamers when they got the plant on customs against EG to lock them out and eliminate them at LAN last season.
And so there is effectiveness in it for sure in that sense, but it is down to whether or not that smoke is good at that, right? Because if you fail to do that, you fail to burn even time on that, and you just get taken out in like say 30 seconds. Now you've taken a critical piece of defense out of play because now they're completely dependent on C4s. That being said, there is another use that we saw from some of the NA teams where they would use the Ela mines instead, and we've seen that more and more through some of these teams to deny the plant via that. It's nowhere near as lethal, obviously, but if you have someone to follow up the shot, let's say you throw that and then you have Mira there with the Vector, can usually land a good shot while they're disoriented or even get that chance to throw that C4. It's still viable, but it's dangerous because you're making a big gamble in doing so. If it works, it pays off big. If it doesn't, you're struggling at the end.
We saw it yesterday. It was Reckless was holding on basement, and Super had actually come in and was planting behind that laundry bin or the laundry basket, got hit with 2 Ela mines, and then after went to go for the plant a third time, was not able to outlast the toxic gas of smoke, and that was it for him. And of course, it's something you can chain together and use it. You can use those Ela mines very similar to a yokai drone.
And we saw a good combination with that with Redeemer, for example, being a really good Echo player in the past, where he would use that in combination and be able to get that opportunity to move that yokai. It also gives Smoke the opportunity, if he missed his first smoke, to adjust it. Obviously, the C4 a little harder to throw a second one and adjust, so that's a little more difficult to do. You really got to land that first shot, but it comes down to the range of the mine, because you don't have to be accurate with that. You have to be accurate with the smoke, and you have to be accurate with the C4. You have to be accurate with the yokai, but the Ela mine covers almost that entire area. So when you just hit somewhere there, you just come around the corners, a lot of people do from the hallway, chuck one in, boom, now
and
denied.
Hits all of them too. That's the other thing. It's not like a yokai drone where when yokai hits you with your blast, it's really one person disoriented. It's everybody in that radius of the Gershmont mine.
And then you throw that C4, and you could potentially get more than one kill with it.
Absolutely, because it, of course, affects your turning radius. So if you're faced the wrong way, it might be a little bit too difficult.
Faced against the washing machine.
Yeah, exactly. So very, very tough. But it looks like we have everybody in the lobby, so we'll be tossing into Oregon in just a moment. We are doing a rehost, unfortunately, due to some connectivity issues with a member of MOPA. BRK was up 2-0, and on defense, downstairs, and it'll be interesting to see how our first basement hold is for them. They did look like they were in pretty good position. They had one roamer upstairs, that was the Ela, trying to be hunted down by the Jackal, but we're all ready, and we'll toss into Oregon, and we'll go back into the action. Thank you so much for your patience.
Well, I imagine they're going to have to play the same bomb site. I don't imagine they're going to defend it exactly the same way, so it should be interesting to see how the attackers adjust as well, because they have the opportunity now to maybe not need Jackal as much if they know that there's going to be the roam from that Ela, for example, upstairs, but they still probably want to get that ping because they don't know where the positioning is. But that means they know that if they can get control of one room upstairs, then they'll have the opportunity to be able to get those footprints easier, right? So let's say Ela's running around on that second floor, then let's say they control master bedroom, they can get those footprints and then push out a lot easier because of the pings. So the Jackal could actually be a good pick here, but then again, that depends on Novi's playing the same way.
Right. Good old Battle Eye.
Battle Eye Justice. Still doing his thing every day, 24 hours a day. The Sentinel watching over us.
Sleeps.
That's right, and thank goodness for that, because you definitely want to make sure in a game like this that skill reigns supreme.
Now, they are using the Mira strat upstairs. I don't know who is going to be the one taking care of that, whether they will have the Mira play up there or maybe even the Ella do it. But regardless, the Mira strat being employed up top will be interesting to watch.
Yeah, I'm curious if he's going to use the other one down here and which spot he's going to use it on, because, I mean, it makes more sense to put it on the one wall, but we see them sometimes just change stuff up and how they want to play it. Zig, though, a little paranoid. Someone peeking him.
They'll make sure that there's nobody downstairs. That was a nice play by the Twitch drone. That's important for Bullet to be able to get that out of the way before they can push in through.
But Valkyrie is going to know that there is someone pushing there, but it depends entirely on Valkyrie. The other players might not know,
right?
Because it depends on them calling that out. Hey, that camera's gone, and remembering that. So hopefully he's on top of that. Diogo can at least call that out.
And still droning in, a little bit of a miss from the Twitch drone there. It also looked like Cyber went for the run out. It could have just simply been a rotate, as there are two members of the defense there positioned to try to take care of any attackers that might push in. Navi's just down by Harry Potter as he can hear one above him and doesn't even know that there might be more than one.
Nice.
Awful heads-up play there from Sexy Cake, who drones in the open, and Navi's gets some sibling rivalry, as that's the first kill of round number 3. The scoreboard at the top says round number 1. It is round number 3, and 1 is now going to have to get flushed out, as construction wall is going to get taken apart. Some jackling going on, as you can see a belated Mira going down. Nesk eliminating Cyber. That was the Jaeger who was roaming earlier. That'll give them a bit more room to maneuver towards the site.
That's definitely an important early kill, but Cyber, so far on this map, hasn't been the linchpin that he was on Consulate, meaning that might not be as important of a kill as Navi's, for example, or even PX trying to flush that out. But nonetheless, they are still doing pretty well in this push here, managing to get quite a bit of map control upstairs, forcing them all turtle down. But still, nonetheless, that turtling is very difficult to deal with. But I like that they're pushing from construction as well, because that's, I think, a little more effective in these situations when they've got such a defense like this. And you know that they had to commit the Mira window to the other side. Now someone can flank from Laundry.
It was Diogo that was just by bomb site A, trying to look down towards the push coming from north stairs or back stairs, depending on what you want to particularly call it. A little bit of an early smoke from 1, so they will have to time them out or space them a little bit better in order to prevent a push in through construction towards bomb site B. Nesk looking from one angle, Navi's from another, and that will effectively cut off any rotates. As Zig doing some drone work to try to make sure that the rest of the team is able to come in. Another smoke goes down, and that still means that they need to be more patient with, if they have a third and final smoke that we just haven't caught yet, they'll need to make sure that it goes down with about 15 seconds left.
Nice push in there. Taking down 1. That's going to be important, but they've got to worry about the roamer upstairs still in the attic, because that could be a big factor here. Plant going down early as kill goes down to Diogo. 4v2, though, as it becomes a 4v1. Definitely looking really good for them to take this and turn it back against them. And there is another round, but this time for MOPA, coming back strong after that break.
It was their first victory and maybe a tactical reset from them, but nonetheless, that Vector just bucking a little too high and not able to land all of the shots. Still, with that diffuser down, would have been a tall task for the Mira, and MOPA hopes still alive. You don't want to find yourself down 3-0 on the tiebreaker matchup, and now MOPA will go to defense, still going to try to determine where they're going to go. Upstairs, it appears, though I would wager that you weren't successful on upstairs last time around. Why not try your hand and go down?
Yeah, and I've seen on this particular map, when teams are stubborn on that, especially on Oregon, they tend to lose quite a few rounds in a row. And in a contest like this, where this is the deciding map, you do not want to take chances like that. That is a good time to switch. I mean, however, if they really have a good idea what they could do different to change things up, then, you know, maybe that works. Because keep in mind, the first time they attacked the dorms up there, it was close in terms of them just barely recovering it. So, I don't know. They've just got to figure it out.
Interestingly enough, the second floor play did not factor in that much. You'd seen that they put the Mira upstairs last round, and it really didn't make much of a difference at all.
But they all attack from construction.
That's true. It completely negated their push. That could have just been very smart droning on their, I guess, on their part. It really depends on the shot calling or IGLing of MOPA. Don't want to give credit if it's not due. That could have just been could have been sheer luck. But regardless, ended up being a wise idea, lucky or not. Now you can see a lot of those windows have been opened up, not just in rear tower, but also small tower. And that's going to give some pause, but not too much to BRK as they look to push in. you'd always want to be a little wary when there's some broken panels because you don't know if there's a defender lurking behind it, because all it can take is one well-placed Valkyrie cam and you start to run thinking there's nobody there and you already find yourself down one.
Absolutely. The mind game's always factoring in this game. That's one of the great things about it. There's so much flexibility to play so many different ways. You really got to outthink your opponent. In this case, one trying to find a head there, hoping to do that, but it's not a great angle in terms of finding a lot of people, but it is trying to find some utility perhaps there.
I'm not entirely certain, but BRK now changing. So a call has been made. They will instead look to try to likely push through master bedroom rather than go through big window, and Navi's finds himself now trapped in attic. There is one beneath him as well, as there doesn't really look to be anybody droning for him. He took some damage from the defender situated on the top of White Stairs and is now going to try to come back. There is some bandit tricking being done in the closet, so Navi's will prevent a flank up those stairs inside of attic, but still not in the greatest of shape. He'll hit the barbed wire. That's an audio cue that he's there, as it looks like he's just going to simply retreat, which is a smart play to make.
Yeah, I like how he's able to get some control, clear some out, place that Claymore, set a little bit up and get away, but then Cyber not able to get away himself, taken down by Bullet. It was a good initial kill there.
Bullet has spent almost the entire map in that back tower, and it pays off. Patience is a virtue, but a kill is still a kill. And it took him 2 minutes, but he is able to clean up one. Your Ash down. Cyber's a good shot, and of course, that 3-speed can just run in and wreak havoc on that site and easily overwhelm a 3-armor defender situated inside of the defensive site. Now, Navi's is looking to try to take the head off of Bandit. Bandit, it looks like he has his back to Navi's, and whether Bullet is able to clean up from behind is going to be anybody's guess. Navi's, though, has just been in bad position after bad position, and one's push will be delayed. He has the long angle into attic and lights it up, but isn't able to connect. Diogo the Capitao eliminates Sexy Cake, the Ella proving to be ineffective so far this round, and that'll put him at 4 apiece.
30 seconds left with a 4v4 is not great for the attackers here, but they do at least have some good positioning. Navi's, though, spending a lot of time looking behind himself, costs him ultimately as he gets taken down by Zig. A nice kill from them, and that is falling apart for the attacker as one wasn't able to hit his shots. Does make up for it, though, thankfully.
Lands it onto Bullet, and now they will push in amidst the cover of smoke. The Bandit jumps up, Zig takes one down with him, Nesk joins in as well. Those asphyxiating bolts, not as good as needed, but Nesk gets taken, or Nesk rather, takes down PX. The smoke giving some cover to Zig, who had been dropped in the ensuing skirmish, and MOPA now sticks 2 of their own together in a row, and we are all tied up.
One problem I've seen consistently with those attacks is Navi's goes in alone as the entry fragger, and sometimes he's able to get good map control, but they're never able to capitalize on it. He gets in these positions where he's able to get a good forward position, get in a lot closer than you usually should, and then the rest of his team isn't there. And it's fine for an entry fragger if they're trying to do it in combo with other people, but there's no one else drawing fire, no one else drawing attention or taking map control off that to actually capitalize on that. You saw Navi spent the whole time just looking behind himself. Because of that, he had a great initial position. Had someone been following that up, say pushing the A window or coming from a different side, even the White Stairs would have been fine, or pushing from Arsenal, or I mean the Armory. It's just so many opportunities that were missed because of timing. And I think it's great that he's able to run solo like that, but the rest of his team not able to back him up has been a consistent problem. We saw him die in blue, for example, that one time on Clubhouse. Yeah, he was this great entry frag, but then no one there to follow it up. Had someone even been there with him, might have been able to trade that, and I think that's something that's ultimately been a struggle. And that's why they're at 2-0 right now.
He had a drone with him that time as well in blue, and he did charge right in, but the drone was a little bit behind him. It was one who was doing drone work for him, and it was just, it was a little bit behind, and that ultimately ended up costing them an early entry, and he was the Twitch too, and if I remember correctly, was top fragging, so that was a significant loss to the team. And as well, on console, if you remember correctly, he stormed into console office, and as he was trying to push into the office, looks at the hole made on the stairs by the Valkyrie inside of closet, and then thinks nothing of it, and as he tries to run past it, gets taken down.
I think he's got great entry fragging skills and good droning. I mean, I got to give credit to his team to drone in for him well as well. We give him credit for getting in, but that's teamwork, getting in there. It's just not backing him up on that is the problem. Interestingly, we're seeing our first mute, though, and that's going to deny some of that drone entry. That might slow down the entry, but then again, they might go for a nice slow push nonetheless as we're seeing our first Blackbeard.
Yeah, and Blackbeard An operator who inhabits a very interesting role in the meta right now. Definitely seems far less of a must pick than he has in previous seasons. I like his spot right now. Of course, the face shield is going to frustrate people who are headshot purists who feel that a headshot should be a headshot nonetheless. But an interesting mechanic, and Blackbeard is used on certain sites with far more prevalence than on other ones. So with that said, we've exhausted a minute and still some drone work being done. And yes, the one thing that I've noticed on BRK is their drone work needs to be more succinct. That is what is trailing MOPA at the moment. And Sexy Cake takes some damage, a couple shots into his rifle shield, does not break. He'll change it out, and he'll go right back into the action, heading towards big window.
He could rotate to the other window if he wants to as well, but they don't seem too concerned with taking B side. We haven't seen really anyone pressuring from the B side of that bedroom over there. Everyone focusing on pushing from one particular side, and that costs. And the Cyber takes him down straight to the face. So many bullets in that gun.
Yeah, that M4 carbine that Jaeger has is still pretty good. I think Ella has really kind of overshadowed just how much of a menace a roaming Jaeger used to be. I think Ella has taken all of that criticism away from him, but still, people, I guess people have shorter memories than we'd like to believe. Of course, the loss of an ACOG hurting that too. Final minute of round number 3, and BRK doing a pretty good job of a last stand. They're just firing away on this open window, though Nesk manages to eliminate Cyber. That was the Jaeger who had come out and taken care of the Blackbeard. Now Nesk on a position where the Blackbeard arguably should have been. And that Jackal is going to keep pinging the Ella of Navi's, who is just going to stay completely still, hoping to have the environment protect him from any stray bullets that could be fired his way. Zig on big window, fires through the smoke, and at the very last second opts to stop as Navi's capitalizes, and BRK takes a numbers advantage as well. The Jackal posted up on the window. Both PX and Navi's are there, and of course, you could see a run out, but doesn't need to be as the Vector tears through him. A Clay Pigeon as he's repelled up on the window. Now one jumping into will leave Bullet as the last one left, but that F2 is as formidable a gun as any. He takes Navi's down and still has 3 more to go, but will inevitably caught in the crossfire as he walks in and right through that hole in closet. 1 eliminates him, and BRK answers back. After MOPA had won 2 in a row, BRK goes back up 3-2.
Started off as a decent initial attack, but the one directionalness of it, attacking so much from the A window, for example, and not being able to hold it, the Blackbeard was a nice choice in terms of trying to change things up a little bit, but ultimately was the wrong choice in that he wasn't able to actually use it properly. Just getting peeked after peeked and getting shot at eventually cost him his life. Then they lost all their ability to actually hold that window, yet continue to push it and push from white stairs, ultimately costing them and putting in a situation where they started 2 rounds up, now only 1 round up from their opponents. If I remember correctly, it should be 3-1 in BRK's favor right now.
Yeah, it's a very interesting back and forth that we've seen there, and that was MOPA, two I guess unidirectional there.
Yeah.
It was a very one-sided attack, and they just kept feeding themselves into a line of fire, and you know, I'm not entirely certain why they didn't at some point make that call. Now, we did see that their real push didn't start until the final minute. They could have just simply thought that, hey, we'll go and hopefully win our gunfights because we're running out of time.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. We're not seeing a lot of flanking from these teams on attacks, and I think that's ultimately costing a lot of attack wins. We saw some good methodical play some of the times where they were, like, maybe not flanking as much, but a little more spread out in their attack, and it depends on the bomb site they're attacking, but I think that's been a big problem for them because if, as you said, they don't win those initial gunfights, they don't soften up the site enough. But we've got an interesting push here from Cyber on Blitz, so he's going to try and actually push from probably a different direction than most of the rest of them, as we see a lot of solo play with Blitzes.
I mean, we just saw it in our previous matchup, how fearsome a Blitz could be with Yuna going in that 1 round. And the first time I think we saw him on a Blitz, he got a very quick 3K, especially to finish things out. So now the shield will wander in, and of course, this is a map that seems very well designed for Blitz too. He is a menace in one-on-one engagements, and especially in close quarters, he can be very oppressive to play against because there isn't a lot of counterplay if you find yourselves trapped or confined by the moving Blitz.
Which there tends to happen down in that basement here. As you saw earlier, that Blitz pushing into the basement. So it's a question of whether or not he can get it that far, but he's not getting far at all.
And you can see the Blitz was pushing up on top of stairs. You'll have one as a Sentinel, managed to take a lot of health off of Zig. And the Blitz just jumps into the fray on top of White as Glaz vaulted over. And PX takes out what little was left of Zig. So the pulse off the board. There is one still prone at the moment. That's the Ella of Bullet inside of Kids Dorm. Some smoke will go down, and this is going to promote a 1v1 engagement between Cyber and the Polish operator. But joined by one, they'll try to pinch out Ella. The Kirschmont mine doing great work, and there you can see just very, very frustrating to deal with. Unable to get the Ella at the moment as she is quite fast, but she takes down the Blitz somehow and has lost a lot of health in the process as Bullet looking to try to escape from the glass. And Ella, by the way, as now goes one, and Bullet somehow managing that. Really should not have been able to get out of that alive.
That's a situation where I would have loved to see one on the Blitz and Cyber on the glass, because Cyber, as you said, has been more consistent, and one dropping out. I hope that wasn't just anger at that point of failing to do the shots he needed to do, but it's far too late in the round. We're not going to get the rehost this time.
Also, he was dead, so it's not like they're losing an active player. Could have been something where maybe he was having issues with his frames. We have no idea and no real point in speculating. Hopefully he isn't back in time, so we do not need to get a rehost. Diago manages, though. Ella had very little health left, and Diogo takes the rest of it away. Sexy Cake low on life too, but a well-timed smoke will now make it difficult for PX to push into sight. He does hold that diffuser. If he can wander in amidst that gas and be able to get a play or a diffuse down, that could be all his team needs. But from behind, Sexy Cake on the flank, that Vigil with the SMG-12 eliminating the Capitao, and PX is out of time, but wow, a nice kill onto Yuke, and he's inside of sight, trying to figure out where the rest of the defenders are. All they need to do is wait, but Nesk greets him at the end of his shotgun barrel, and we will have another rehost, all tied up at 3 apiece. A pretty sizable hold from MOPA, and yeah, we're seeing Oregon as being a pretty even contest between the two teams as we predicted.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see that overtime, because I'd like to see it, you know, if, yeah, we have some maybe one-sided maps earlier. I always like to see the final one really be the one that truly comes across as the decider, with like a 6-5 or a 6-4 win at the end. I mean, that's a lot to ask for. But now, hey, this gets a chance to go the momentum the other way, right? Now that they've, because we saw what happened, right? They were 2 up. We had the rehost. Then the other team went 2 up, and they managed to get 1. Now we get the rehost. Maybe they could get that momentum back and keep flipping this to be able to take it there, because 3-3 is a tough spot to be in, though, because a team only has to win 2 rounds in a row, though, to close that out. But if we see the back and forth we've mostly been seeing now, I mean, we have seen some 2 rounds in a row, though, so it is entirely possible we could see one team shut this out after the rehost.
Right, and you've got 2 juggernauts going against each other. It stands to reason that this would be as close as it was. Now, map number 1 was not as decisive as map number 2, but still the teams showing why they picked the maps that they did. Clubhouse was not a map that MOPA performed particularly well on, and then Consulate certainly not one that BRK looked comfortable on as well. Oregon, of course, a very even contest. You find that when you have maps like Oregon, like Borders, Chalet not so much in Latin America, but Chalet definitely in EU and in North America. Those are typically 3 maps that you are very well versed on, and every team seems to compete on a more even contest. And if you can run away with Oregon, then that usually bodes very well for the way you're going to play in the series. And not a map like Skyscraper, not a map like Coastline, where you have some teams that are very, very good at them, especially particular sites.
Yeah, and I feel like this is a map that lends itself to adapting and changing things up, where it can really go back and forth in terms of a team that's being on a losing streak, finding a way to get around that because they're able to change up so much, because the roam game is so viable, because they can just, okay, I'll play it a different direction, I'll play this differently. And that allows them to be able to actually change up what's working and what's not. That doesn't guarantee that just because you change something it'll work, but it gives a lot of opportunity, especially with these rehosts in here, for them to really think about, okay, what's not working, and change that up. I imagine we'll see some different strategies employed now after this because of the back and forth like that.
And we've seen teams go on both sites now, so they have some semblance of an idea as to how the teams will defend. And I mean, with the way we're going back now is MOPA just won a defense downstairs. They will have to go back either to the 2nd floor or to a less common site, as I'm trying to avoid using the term orthodox. And as well, BRK successful on their last defense, which if I remember correctly was upstairs. They will have to go downstairs or to another site similar. So we know, realistically, we know where they're going to go from here on out for at least the next 2 rounds. So you can potentially be very well prepared to either put yourself on match point or even go to overtime with the knowledge of what sites are locked and which sites are open.
Yeah, and that's always interesting too, because if it does come down to that point, you get the option to do whatever site you want, right? But it is random, I believe, who actually starts on defense in that, and then the math can work out kind of funky depending on how well you've been successfully defending, whether or not that works in your favor or not.
It will need to be a coin flip, so because we have rehosted
Right.
The game will usually determine it based upon some hidden metrics that we don't have access to. But because there have been rehosts, what would happen is if we go to overtime, there would be another rehost. It would be a manual coin flip, and then teams could choose sides and choose which site they would go to depending on whether they were defending or attacking. So that's what we would be looking at if there was to be overtime, or if there were to be overtime, but let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Yes. Entirely
BRK
possible.
started very strong, and MOPA has really been climbing up since then. But
Yeah.
it appears that we have everybody in the lobby right now. It looks like MOPA is ready, and we're waiting to see if BRK is ready as well, and then we can toss into Oregon. And I'm really glad that we've gotten to see a matchup that has been this close.
Absolutely, and it is fun sometimes to see it go like one map to one team, one map to the other, and then like really close at the end because like you see they both have very solid strengths and weaknesses.
So with that said, we are loading up into Oregon, and we will head back. It is tied up 3-3, as you can see right over my right shoulder, both BRK and Devin's left shoulder rather.
Yeah.
That we're all tied up at 1 apiece. So 3-3 winner goes on to the finals of the Latin America Rainbow Six Invitational Playoffs to compete for a spot in Montreal. And here we are, and BRK will go downstairs. They will not opt for a stranger site.
Yeah, I see Cyber still maintaining a sense of humor despite the closeness of the game. Picking the meme operators there, switching to Tachanka and Capcan before ultimately deciding. I think he's kind of still having a lightheartedness about it, and I think that bodes well. I think I would favor BRK this round just off of Cyber being in a good mood. Like, because we've seen he can be such a pivotal player. Maybe not, like I said, as much on this particular map, but nonetheless, it bodes well because that means the rest of your team's in better spirits.
Right.
And we said coming off of the rehouse like this, that tends to happen, right? Like I said, BRK could come back from the rehouse to get their momentum back just the way MOPA did. So.
Rehosts do allow a team to catch their breath as well, and I think that's one thing is that we've said it before where there have been teams that have been absolutely dominating other teams, gone to a rehost, and then we've come back and it's almost as if another team is completely subbed in for them.
Yeah.
Because it gives you time, and depending on the length of the rehost, you have an opportunity to reassess your strategies, you have an opportunity to discuss what potentially went wrong, and if you're already tilted or you're already angry, it can be exacerbated by the rehost, but usually from the teams I've spoken with, they take a nice deep breath, they ready themselves, they shake it off, maybe some motivational talk, and they delve into what's gone wrong and how they can fix it, and it's essentially an opportunity for some maybe mentally to start anew. And Yuke almost getting kill number 1 onto Navi's, seeing the kneecaps of Ella but can't capitalize.
It's important that they have the Jackal here now because we're seeing a first mute on the basement. We saw the mute once on the upstairs. Now we're seeing it on the downstairs. And the inability to drone here, which is actually probably going to affect Bullet's droning, is going to be a factor. And that makes Jackal that much more important in order to try and find those roamers. Although mute can only do so much to stop roamers because he's got to use choke points. And while roamers could be potentially anywhere, still, though, that does eliminate some places.
Absolutely. And as they push towards Large Tower, still waiting on really a concerted effort to get inside a site. It did originally look, rather, like it was going to be a push from construction, but a call has been made from somebody on MOPA to change course, and that ship will now move, and it looks like it will be a push through rear stage, back tower, and down the stairs into the basement.
I feel like some of that was the call from Bullet, seeing because he saw quite a bit of the basement when he went in through that construction side. Got some intel, relayed it to his team, whether him or someone else made that call. It was a good use of that intel, and the mute not being able to deny that. Obviously factoring in here because it changed how they're playing it. Whether this will work, that's another story, but nonetheless, they are at least playing off of their intel, as you mentioned.
That Mira will be able to see the feet of Bullet, who now gets down into the spot known as Harry Potter, just underneath the stairs by that shelving unit. They've got the smoke playing in the back. Now, that's a smart call. They've rotated the smoke to the back Mira rather than have one in the front. A smoke will go off from one who's been playing largely anchor the last 2 maps. That will deny a push once again in through construction. Very similar to what we saw last time around. Navis comes in, clears out Zig, and Yuke looked like he was going to be able to get one on a Diogo, but the Jaeger simply outduels him, and MOPA's push falling apart. They are still 5v3, make that 5v2, and now 2v4. But Bullet and Nesk slap back, and down go PX and Navis, as Diogo lost most of his health in the ensuing fray. And Cyber still posted up on that back mirror window to look down the back hallway, as Nesk is going to try to flash him out, and the smoke will move. Bullet gets taken down, so it's going to be all up to Nesk, but unable to deal with that C4 of 1, and now it's BRK moving to match point.
Like I said, Cyber with that lightheartedness bringing it back for his team. Good defense, though. I mean, I like the adjustments from the attack, but they just couldn't seem to land their shots. Missing that one shot onto the Jaeger, I think, was really where it turned drastically, because they had a nice advantage in having the angle. He could have hit the smoke first, potentially, and then hit the Jaeger, and that could have just decimated most of the defense, because you saw how important the smoke was later. They also did manage to bait out most of the smokes, whether or not bait did some damage or not. Nonetheless, he was left without smokes in the last 30 seconds. They had an advantage on that push, but there was still C4s in play, as you saw a C4 get a kill there, which may have been a delayed kill from an injury, but nonetheless still effective. So good defense of that basement and good adjustment in terms of determining they're attacking from this side. We're going to rotate over there. We're actually seeing Laundry really not favored by either of these teams in terms of attacking strategy, which we were talking about earlier. We could see these Yings attacks or these smokes or even the glass coming down the stairs. Not seeing any of that. They're all favoring one side. This is the time for one team to change it up, say a BRK, and come from a different side if they're attacking. Well, I guess they're going to be attacking the upstairs, so they're not going to get that chance, but nonetheless, change it up, attack from the other side, and I don't think they're going to be expecting it at this point.
And one interesting thing to note is MOPA is the #1 ranked team in this region. The #1 ranked team in North America was Flipside. They got eliminated before even making it to the semifinals. So MOPA has done the best so far of the two regions, but the #1 ranked team in EU is already out. They were actually eliminated in the very first round.
Before it could even hit us.
Yeah. B Genius was dropped by the Polish team, Patokalypsa. So there will be, if MOPA gets eliminated right now, there will be no #1 seeded team making it into the finals of any region except for potentially APAC. And then, of course, APAC, a little bit more difficult to determine just because there are 4 sub-regions where, yes, I believe Mantis FPS was the #1 from Korea. Cryptic, I believe, was the #1 from... well, I guess technically because they won their tourneys, they would all be the #1 seeds, technically.
Yep.
So there you go. So outside of APAC, there will be, if MOPA loses this, no #1 seed available. But it all hinges on how BRK is successful or whether they are successful on their attack. And once again, lining up inside a master bedroom, which seems to be BRK's focus every time they attack this
Which
site.
was smart of the Mirror to adapt to that and try and defend master bedroom with the windows. It seems to be working out. Navi's, again, going in that solo play, trying to take that armory and not making much progress from there. He does get a little stunned, but they slowly approaching. His teammates standing outside. You see Thermite, see Thatcher. Glaz not in any position, just doing some droning. Navis is just going to get taken out here if he tries to push in because he's all alone in doing so.
They'll smoke the Mira out, but there's one isn't really there to be able to do much with it. Now, similar as to before, one member of MOPA situated in the back tower, or rear tower rather, or just tower, depending on what you call it, and that will be Bullet, who had proven to be strong before. Mira does get pushed off of her Mira just outside of master bedroom, and they'll open that up. That'll be a two-way sight line, which will be a hindrance to a rotate through attic just above meeting hall, and now Cyber tries to inch his way up through that western corridor to try to get the Mira as the rest will push in, and that's Navi's joining into the fight. Cyber gets first kill as down goes Yuka. Now BRK, though getting traded off by Zig, it's going to be tougher for them to do. They'll manage to open up that master bedroom wall as the Jackal of Cyber gets a couple shots off, and Zig looks ready to try to come in, but Zig doesn't capitalize. One is there, Cyber gets taken down, and they will pick that Jackal back up.
This is looking dangerously close to being a victory here for BRK, as it's a 4v3. Smokes are starting to go out, and that's going to be the last smoke used. That's going to give them some opportunity to push during that last 30 seconds. They still have the diffuser in hand by the Thermite, who's ready to plant it. They just need to get the actual moving parts working here. Nesk not able to stop them by one, who is finally picking up his Glaz play here on this map. This is looking really bad for Sexy and Bullet.
Sexy K gets taken down. Bullet is the last one left, but BRK wins the matchup. MOPA, another one, #1 seed, gets eliminated, and there will be no representation from the first overall seeds. With MOPA being eliminated, BRK goes to the finals, and they will compete against Lanchonete tomorrow. So wow, what a blockbuster that was, especially the final 2 rounds.
I bet one's feeling good now. Because
Yes.
the rest of his team left him. I don't know what the conditions were, but he's the last man standing, carries his team, his new team, to victory. And that bodes well for their synergy to be able to make it this far with that many new players who are from different teams. Although mostly, I guess, from Merciless, which was a team that wasn't a super high-ranked team previously.
No, they were They were the bottom 4 of Pro League last season.
And that makes it even more of dare I say it again, an upset
Right.
in terms of it's a weaker team theory.
In all reality, on paper, this should have been MOPA's win, similar to what we saw yesterday in North America. But I mean, just because somebody should win doesn't mean they will. And that's part of the beauty of this ladder system, is the amount of upsets that we have seen. Now, we say time and time again, that was just not a wise play whatsoever. You drone in the middle of the open. Why?
Yeah. And we're definitely seeing like some of the misplays from some of these teams as well, just getting capitalized on by BRK. MOPA, though, had a few good shots. Nesk, I think, was a pretty good player on this map in general, but I don't know if there was anyone super standout on MOPA just because they were really struggling.
Nesk and Uke played quite consistently. The only member that I think really needs to find their groove, and I don't want to call him out, but it is Sexy Cake. Sexy Cake, I think, played below expectations because he was, at least in the community, people were stoked to have him get picked up. He was going to he was going to replace, one was supposedly the weak link, and that's why he didn't come with them, or whatever they were saying. And Sexy Cake was supposed to be coming in, and he was going to be this darling to complete this team. And take a look, it was Nesk and Uke who were able to carry that team, and now MOPA will have to rely on either an invite or a wild card spot to compete at the Invitational, because their ladder chances are finished. And BRK will go on tomorrow to compete against Lanchonete, and that should be a very interesting matchup.
Especially considering they nearly 10-0'd the other team tonight, so that should be really good.
It was a commanding performance. But my name is Parker Intero Mackay, joined by Devin Emzo Becker, and you saw earlier that both Milos and Kix were doing matchup number 1. On behalf of all of us here, we will see you tomorrow for the conclusion of Latin America. Take care. Have a great night.